All right, I'm ready. Okay, we're ready.
I give you pass it too.
Okay.
Yes.
So we're going to meet today.
No,
Green.
we were just discussing. That's not until.
Yeah, I was there today anyway. What?
I don't know when we're.
Mr. Bentley's got my favorite color on today.
Look, man, look.
Look at that.
Look, come on now.
All three. I did
We
not
didn't take
get the
a picture,
memo.
man.
Yeah, we got to get a picture of this.
Lindsay didn't get the memo either.
Well, I got my brow, okay.
I'm going home and changing.
Thank you. I won't be there.
Ready?
I got doctor in my knee.
Whenever you
So
are.
that's why we want to make sure you take them on in. Thank you.
All right, we'll go ahead and call to order the meeting of Sanford City Commission work session for Monday, June 23, 2025. Commissioner Britton will be late, and we expect Commissioner Austin will be here soon. And so our first item is communications.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, members of the City Commission, the communications team has put together a presentation, and with that, I'll call on Ms. Lisa Holder.
And
Good afternoon,
they said,
Mayor.
can you turn Chris? She said, can you
Commissioners.
turn the volume up?
Oh, hello, can you hear me?
You good?
You
Okay.
need to hear every pearl there, Lisa.
Good afternoon, Mayor and Commissioners. Welcome to the city's communications presentation, update, highlight accomplishments of where we are as of today, June 2025. I'm clicking this. Chris, I'm clicking it. Gotcha, okay. Thank you. So we have our mission statement, City of Sanford Communications Office elevating our city's voice. The mission of the City of Sanford Communications Office is to inform, engage, and inspire our community. We're committed to strengthening public trust, promoting civic pride, and showcasing the people, services, and initiatives that shape the City of Sanford. Who we are. There's myself, Lisa Holder, Communications and Marketing Manager, Nico Durham, Digital Media Specialist. Liberty Hall is our intern from Rollins College this summer. And Xavier Benjamin, Yelda intern. So what our responsibilities are in the city's communications office include media relations, social media management, Facebook, Nextdoor, Instagram, YouTube.
There's no door to
Construction.
close.
Stand up there, Tim, real big.
Nothing like interruption. Instagram, YouTube, videography, photography, our podcast, website content, our new e-newsletter, community engagement, Citizens Academy, the Mayor's Youth Council, and Public Art Commission support. Like I mentioned, our team members, I've been with the City of Sanford since September 2011. Nico has been recently hired, 6 months here with the City of Sanford, and of course our interns, just one first day, the other a week or two. Communications and who we support. Public Works and Utilities, Streets Division, Fleet Division, Facilities Division, the Stormwater Division, and Solid Waste. Community Relations and Neighborhood Engagement, City Administration, Economic Development, Finance, Development Services, which includes building, permitting, code enforcement, Parks and Recreation, the City Clerk, and even Human Resources and Risk Management. Our extended communication team members are with us today. Jennifer Brooks is our Special Events Coordinator with the Parks and Recreation Department, but she is also backup to the Communications Office. Savannah Poole is the assistant at the museum, and she is responsible for our Facebook and our YouTube channel at the Sanford Museum. We have our police department team here, public safety, Bianca Gillette, strategic communications manager, Officer Michael Hernandez. We also have Officer Ronnie Neal here, and they have their presentation to share with you. And then the Sanford Fire Department also has Facebook, and Lieutenant Greg Boone takes care of that for them. So in the beginning, if you remember, we did a branding change here at the City of Sanford. Everybody recognizes that previous logo. Here's a little bit of a timeline. So in 2012, we really started the communications office. It was founded then, crafting the voice of the city. 2014, we launched our city social media channels. So everybody think back, like this is the beginning of social media, and the City of Sanford was right on cue for where society was at the time. So Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, we had 1,000 followers combined back then. We launched the Citizens Academy in 2015. Since then, there's 22 classes that have successfully graduated. In 2017, we create the Sanford Style Guide, a comprehensive guide to define our brand, voice, and aesthetic. And this is an example of this. This style guide is available on the city's shared drive for all employees to use as a guideline for everything from business cards to letterhead to all kinds of things as it relates to our brand. In 2019, we launched the Sanford Says podcast, and the communications office became the liaison for the Public Art Commission. In 2020, it was the pandemic year. We did updates across all our platforms, including videos, infographics, and we even created some direct mail pieces, and that was without a graphic designer on staff. We had our GIS person working with us at the time. 2022, we launched Sanford Connects, the city's mobile app. In 2025, some of our social media milestones: 10,000 followers on Instagram, 26,000 followers on Facebook, 944 subscribers on YouTube, and we hired the full-time digital media specialist. So right now, Nico Durham's going to come up and share some stats on our social media.
As Lisa literally runs away.
That's just a fun coincidence.
Well, but she's not going anywhere.
She's not going anywhere.
Well, good afternoon, commissioners, mayor, city manager. So moving on to social media. In 2019, the big milestone, because that was the year before COVID, this was the standing for the city's social media at the time. For all our social media analytics, we use Sprout Social. That is a platform that we use that pretty much counts our subscribers, engagement, impressions, all that fun stuff with social media. And as you can see, these are the numbers as it stood in 2019. And this is today. As we mentioned, 26,000 on Facebook, 10,000 or so we just hit this year for Instagram. YouTube, almost at 1,000, X, 2.5, and next door for our households, we have 26,800 residents that are signed up for our next door notifications. Here's our YouTube breakdown. I thought it was interesting, as most of our analytics skew towards more of a male audience. So far, we have 343,000 views. And the primary format most people watch our YouTube videos. That includes the commission meeting, any other long-form videos that the city has produced in the past and will in the future, mostly on the phone and on the computer. And this is pretty much a slide indicating our engagement metrics. Since I've done this from June 21st, 2024 to June 21st, 2025, we've seen a huge increase in impressions, engagement, people clicking on our links and staying. And that's just a testament to all the work that the City of Sanford has done in conjunction just with all our avenues. And this is just for fun. Seminole County, this is their social account status as of today. 53,000 for Facebook, 12,000 or so for Instagram. And I choose these two social media platforms because they're pretty much the pillars of society at the moment, so they're the best to go off of. And this is a comparison to the rest of the 7 cities. As you can see by the numbers, our Facebook numbers are higher than theirs, which is not so much a competition, but just a direct comparison to the cities in Seminole County.
Yes, it is a competition.
You said it, Commissioner, not me.
That's right.
And here's our Instagram. Oviedo doesn't have an Instagram, so we didn't really include it. And this is also a comparison, which is interesting. Sprout Social also allows us to see our competitors, which are Altamont, DeLand, DeBerry, Winter Springs, Longwood, and our social media accounts in regards to engagement, audience growth is still superior. Now, we didn't really include Winter Park and Orlando because they're Orange County, but in regards to Seminole and the surrounding counties, we're doing pretty good. We just got to keep pushing. And I'll let Lisa discuss more on our social media ambassador program, which I believe is a great program.
So we created a social media ambassador program many years ago to interact with our community outside of, in person. They're their own online communities, so to speak. And this program was an initiative designed to collaborate with our residents. Its purpose is to assist in disseminating information to the public, answer questions, and act as an extension of the city's voice within our social media group. So this is strictly Facebook. And we have the Sanford 327 and I Love Sanford. And these two folks, John Didana from Sanford 327, is the administrator of that page, and Stephanie Heller with I Love Sanford. And I'll read to you the quote that we just asked them for. It says, this is from John Didana. For the last few years, working with the Sanford Social Media Ambassador Program has helped to connect both myself and the close to 24,000 residents that my group serves to the city, its mission, its events, and urgent information that needs to be shared. It is a great conduit for all the city of Sanford does. That's John Didana, Sanford 327. Thank you, John. And Stephanie Heller, another social media ambassador, says, the Social Media Ambassador Program is an innovative approach that amplifies important updates and useful information from the city. It fosters a unique reciprocal relationship between the city and its residents, encouraging collaboration to strengthen community engagement and connection. Sanford Says podcast. Many of you have been on the podcast of the city. We have launched that in 2019, 182 episodes so far, total downloads 13,796. Available on Spotify, Apple, Google, YouTube, and SoundCloud. Top performing episodes, What's New in Economic Development, and then Hurricane Preparedness with Emergency Management that stopped by. Also, we just recently, a couple of our recent episodes was Permitting with our new development ombudsman, and that went pretty well. Half an hour of explaining everything. It's on all the channels. Please take a listen. And we have coming up this week a podcast episode recording with Dan Ping and Paul Williams for the Sanford Summer Sizzling program in Main Street. So they'll be here to record. And so it's not just internal. We also have guests from the community that come in, and Sanford Says podcast was the first podcast in this area. Thank you to the city. Yeah.
So for this slide, just indicates the platforms that our podcast is normally performed on or performs the best. People normally use Apple to listen to our pod, Sanford Says specifically. 61% use the phone, 33% use desktop, and 98% is North America or United States of America of our listeners. 1% in Japan, so I'm curious who that is.
Wakarimasu.
For this is our website. Brief analytics, sorry, it's a little skewed there. But the last 30 days, we've received 42,722, I believe, website visits in the last 30 days. And our top performing pages are events calendar. People love to see what Sanford has to offer, as well as work here for job listings. They love paying their bills, and they love learning about what we're talking about today at the agenda, City Commission agenda.
Okay, so Sanford Connects is the city's mobile app. Who has it downloaded on their phone? Yes. Anybody? Thank you. Thank you. Okay. No, this is serious business because we use it, and this is a great example. City of Sanford has a water break. City of Sanford has a, I don't know, something is happening in the community, a street closure at the last minute. What happens? We put it out on Sanford Connects. Where is that? Right on your phone. Notifications. We have it for you. We have all the platforms for you. Sanford Connects, free mobile app. Please download it. Here's our we were customer spotlighted by GoGov, who is the host of the platform for us. 3,000 downloads for the Apple, 1,000 over almost 1,100 for Android, and 1,360 unique accounts registered. What's important about this is that this is not just outbound, this is inbound also. So if you see some graffiti on a sculpture, you see a street light out, you almost trip on a sidewalk, or you see a pothole. What do? Please take a photo, because we're not there. We're not out in the community all the time, everywhere. Take a photo, upload it through this app, and it coincides with our work order requests app called Lucidity. So that's another reason that the City of Sanford purchased this mobile app. So it's twofold. The Clockwork Chronicle, very exciting news. This is our new e-newsletter. It's coming out July 1st, first issue. This will be sent electronically. It will be on our website. Please sign up. We have the QR code. It's been all over our communications channels. It is our first quarterly edition. It'll share highlights and news about the City of Sanford. So that's another way to get information. We just launched a LinkedIn page last week.
Yes.
So that's awesome because we have Nico now and there's more people to help out and post, but we're going to use LinkedIn to its best of its ability. So especially if you work here, you can tag the City of Sanford now, etc. So this is another thing that when Nico arrived, we put into action. This is a communications office form. So say like we have help desk here internally. You can't use your computer. Your phone's not working, email's off, and IT will get that. This is for all communications requests at City Hall. The departments will fill that out. It goes to Nico. He looks it over, reviews it, and then works with the departments to get whatever needs to be done. Prove it, it goes to me. But this is a way to track projects, to make sure that we follow up, that there is efficiency behind this, and that we're more effective in helping the departments. And we're only as good as the departments send us things. So it works two ways, and it's just another way. We've not had that before, but allow us to do a lot more things streamlined. Notable campaigns and awards. The Florida Municipal Communicators Association is an association for municipal communicators like myself, like Nico, and I'm a founding board member representing the City of Sanford. We received Certificate of Excellence in Government Communications 3 years in a row. There's a whole checklist of things that you have to qualify for. The Brand Book and Style Guide in 2025, just recently at our last conference, we won for that particular document. And Best Podcast Honorable Mention 2 years in a row. So this is being judged by our peers and other cities across the state of Florida. Projects. Didn't have to go by that so quickly.
Right.
Nico likes cats, by the way. Okay. So, all right. Now, all right. So print media projects, resident guide, code enforcement guide, community relations brochures, local low-income home energy assistance program, the CDBG, Community Development Block Grant, and Race, Equity, Equality, Inclusion. These are just examples of the print pieces that we'll be doing also. And don't forget, commissioners, we need to take a group photo today as we agreed upon. So for the resident guide. And so there's other, it's not just online, but there are other things that we have customers that would like old-fashioned paper documents. So digital projects, this is just a laundry list of things that we are going to be completing. City events, hurricane prep, Star Spangled Sanford, it's Parks and Rec Month, summer programs, City Parks Showcase, we have 30 or so parks, all of our rental facilities. We want to do an Employee Civic Pride campaign, Economic Development Quarterly Update, City Services Explain, and Veterans Day, Public Works and Utilities activities, the new utilities building unveiling, the water meter frequently asked questions document, the grand reopening of City Hall, this street talk meet and greet, what are you up to in Sanford? And public art, we have the Bridge to the Future sculpture installation and unveiling. That's an $87,000 sculpture. Sanford City Hall sign that's going on this building which will be, that's another art project that's going to be pretty amazing, illuminated sign here for City Hall that is just going to be the bow on the present of this building when it's completed. And utility box wraps. If you have driven around the city, the latest wrap that we're doing is Wednesday at Sanford Airport, Sanford Boulevard and Airport, Sanford Avenue and Airport Boulevard. At the entrance to the airport is a box that's going to be wrapped with some beautiful artwork Wednesday. We're going to be doing a video on that. So on behalf of the communications team, together we're telling Sanford's story clearly, creatively, and consistently. Thank you.
Thank you. Wow. Thank you. Thank you.
And we have other people that are going to be presenting. Jennifer,
Where'd she go?
Public Safety. That's fine. I'm so glad and so happy to have our partners here from the police department, Bianca Gillette, Strategic Communications Manager, that will be taking you through their communications program, and we're very proud of that.
Thank you, Lisa. Good afternoon. I'll be kind of giving you guys a 100-foot overview of the public safety communications team, what we do. I think this is the first that I've ever done this for you guys, and I know there's often a lot of questions that are happening maybe at 9 o'clock at night, wondering why we're pushing something out then or why we're not, and communicating with chief or the deputy chief. And so this kind of helps you guys understand what we're doing behind the scenes to get that information out to you and then to the public. All right, so the media is the most powerful entity on earth. They have the power to make the innocent guilty and to make the guilty innocent, and that's power because they control the minds of the masses. And I thought that was a very appropriate quote to start off today. It's a statement that was made over 50 years ago and is actually, I think, more true today than it was back then. This is before new media had even came into the spectrum. And now every citizen that's out there that has a cell phone have become freelance journalists. And so even more so, in an instant, popular things going viral can change the opinion very quickly. And so it's our job to get ahead of that message, make sure that we anticipate what's coming and answer questions that may arise and control that message in a way that's transparent but effective. So our public safety communications are a separate branch, and that's because the challenges that we face are often unique and they're very high stakes. Communication is vital in building trust and legitimacy within our community. Like any relationship, when there's a breakdown in communication, you see the relationship falter. We've seen in recent years across the nation the outcome when the fallout occurs between an agency and the community they serve, and the aftermath of that can be devastating. So it's our primary function as a public safety team to make sure that we keep those lines of communication open at all times between us and our community. All right, so our team. Many of you guys may not have had the chance to meet our full team, and unfortunately 2 of our members are not here today, but if I can have 2 of them come up. All right, so I am the Strategic Communications Manager overseeing the team itself and the strategy. And then we have over here is Officer Michael Hernandez. He is our Public Information Officer. He is the daily person behind the scenes of the social media posts that you guys have been seeing for the last year. I know that there's been a marked kind of change in the dynamic of our social media, and that is all thanks to Michael. He is just kind of amazing at what talent he's brought to that mechanism and the speed in which he can do it. So that's Michael Hernandez. And then Officer Ronnie Neal has been a member of the public information team since I actually began here in 2016. He's the one that showed me the ropes. And so we're really thankful to have him continuing with us on the team. Officer Tammy Townsend and Officer Nicole Brown are also team members with us. They couldn't be here today, but it's important to understand that we work as a team 24 hours a day. So in order to do that and have some semblance of life outside of work, we go in teams on call. So one of us is always on call for the city of Sanford, 24 hours a day, 365 days a year, and including sometimes we're in pairs of two, because if there's a critical incident, we actually respond to the scene in teams of two. I don't know if you've had the opportunity to view some of our live broadcasting when we're doing a media update. We found in the past with miscommunication between us and traditional media that getting that information direct from the source in its entirety, not clipped, was really important. But in order to do that, you have to have one person in front of the camera and the other person running that, and that requires now a team of two to deploy to critical incidents. So we're really thankful to have such a great, willing, and just efficient team. So thank you guys. Okay, so the nitty-gritty. A lot of people don't realize that as a public safety team, we're 95% police, law enforcement, and 5% fire. So for the police scope, what does that entail for us? We address new media, which when we talk about new media, I'm talking about social media applications and the website. Any kind of that electronic communication that is now the forefront in our communications outlets. We also, in law enforcement, deal with a lot of traditional media requests. So that could be a daily request as far as them saying, hey, we saw this person got booked in the jail. The charge looks interesting. So they email us in the morning, can I have that report? Some people wonder, how do they know? That's how they know. We prepare those reports and redact them for public release. But we also may be doing something that may be a larger response where we have to do press releases, on-camera interviews, redacting body cam, clipping the body cam to get that in media's hands so they can capture the story efficiently, and full-on press conferences, which would require all of that together. We also have a really important aspect of our job is paying attention to our internal communication, knowing what's going on with all of our officers and getting that information up the chain as well as down the chain. And then crisis communication. That's when it's all hands on deck. We may be deploying out to a scene, again, to get that information to the public as quickly as possible. And then emergency operation incident command, and I'll get into what that means a little bit later. And for fire, I know Lisa Holder touched on it, that the battalion chief, Greg Boone, we're so thankful that he runs their social media for fire, because at one point I was doing both and it was just too much for me to handle. So he thankfully took that over. They currently have almost 9,000 followers. We also, any content on their portion of the website will handle. And then for fire, we come in when it's that traditional media response. Again, something happened, a fire, there's a death in the fire, anything criminal related in the fire, that's when you'll see our team step in. Again, thankfully, their fire inspectors will speak to, call it the run-of-the-mill fire where there was no injuries, anything like that, they can speak to that. But we can't come in anything involving death or criminal acts. And again, press conferences for them. We are very lucky, I don't know if you guys know this, but everybody loves fire, so we rarely are dealing with a kind of negative crisis communication for them. So that's why it's like 5% fire, right? And then again, crisis communications with the emergency operations that I'll get into. Oh, Chris, where's the button? It's a video. The volume. That volume. we compiled that video was to try to show you at a glance the dynamic that is representing a law enforcement agency in today's world of new communication. What is complex about it is we are single-faceted. We say we're not all rainbows and sunshine and warm and fuzzies, which we wish we were, right? But unfortunately, our job is crime prevention. And so in order to get that trustworthiness, that legitimacy, we have to have balance on our communications platforms. And so what that means is we have to show when we're reporting crimes or when we need the community's assistance in letting us know about information that's happening out there regarding crime, or when we have to let them know that the crime occurred and there's a safety component of that. And that's kind of the negative side of law enforcement. When we make arrests, it's not to gloat, it's to make sure that the community knows we're doing what you pay us to do, right? We're getting the bad guys off the streets. But we have to also show that we do a lot of community outreach. Our agency prides ourselves on the thousands upon thousands of community outreach acts that we do every single year here in the city of Sanford. We also need to teach about how to prevent the crime, right? Crime prevention is huge. And we also want to advertise our events that we're doing. And on top of that, we have to think, again, that internal audience, make sure that they feel like they're getting credit where the credit is due because they're doing the hard work on a daily basis. So balancing those is really important to us. We found in the past that if you have too much of the crime stuff, you get a negative response, right? Why aren't you keeping us safe, Sanford Police Department? If we have too much of the warm and fuzzy in the community outreach, I kind of described it as that saccharine sweetener, right? It just doesn't seem like it's authentic, right? Because they're going, all you're doing is showing all these warm and fuzzy things, but we know there's crime happening. So our job is to create that balance, and it can very quickly be thrown off. So part of it is looking at our metrics and paying attention to those things and having the pulse on our community and how they feel about the agency. So with the metrics, I know Chief Smith gave a presentation a couple weeks ago about the annual report, and he talked about how we are a data-driven agency, and that's in every single way. We don't lightly look at our metrics for social media. So one of our annual goals, that's part of the annual report for the Sanford Police Department, is that we expect our social media to have a 5% growth per year. We came up with that after years of kind of looking at our growth of what is realistic and what pushes us, right? It's a combination of that. We have already, for this year, met our growth on Facebook, YouTube, and Instagram. Facebook, obviously, with the majority of our followers, over 32,000 followers on Facebook. Our growth, one of our major pushes this year is to really grow that YouTube, and I'll get into why video is key towards the end. And we've been on LinkedIn, but since the recruiting efforts have amped up, we've done a new surge back onto LinkedIn, really looking at that towards our recruitment efforts. So one of the other things when I talk about being data-driven is understanding metrics. And I don't know if any of you guys have actually ever gotten in behind the scenes of a Facebook or Instagram, any of the analytics on a social media account, but they're actually really complex. And you really should be looking at them for your content, not just your overall followers. And an example of that is here. This is just a snapshot of some of our video content. And what I wanted you guys to see on it is, it's not, yes, of course, it's great to look at our reach that we're getting with those videos. But look at the watch time. The highest is 9 seconds, the first 9 seconds of the video. So what does that tell me as the manager of our kind of public relations is we got to put our money where our mouth is. We got to load those videos up front with content. And a 3-minute video may not be worth our money and our investment and our time and effort because they're not going to watch all of it. And it can get even more detailed as to whether they're watching it with the volume on or the volume off, and all of those things are really important in looking at how we're doing what we're doing. So for us, what is an accolade for us? We don't give a lot of awards for public relations communications, but one thing is becoming an example of best practices. And we've hit that mark a number of times. Recently, the FBI National Academy, if you don't know anything about the Law Enforcement and Training, National Academy sets the standard for law enforcement in this country, and even internationally. They have used us as an example of what to do, not only at the opening of their presentation, but throughout. A number of our command staff have been to the National Academy at Quantico, and they were also used as examples then as far back as 2022. That to us is telling us that we are doing what we should be doing, and that we're going to continue on that movement forward. Another measure of success, I thought this was really important. I don't know if you guys follow us on Facebook, hopefully you do, but this morning, well actually last night, again that 24-hour response, we had a missing and endangered person that had left the facility that he was at, and so we posted this as we do when they hit that certain classification, missing, endangered. Posted it late last night. This morning at about 6:30, this comment appeared on the post. He's down by the zoo. I believe I just saw him. Within minutes of that, another person, that screenshot at the bottom is actually from our CAD screen this morning, which CAD is the kind of screen that the officers can see. And it said, hey, we saw this post on Sanford Police Department's Facebook page, and we think the guy's here. We had him in our custody, safe and sound, by 6:45 a.m., and that was all social media. So it is a testament to why we do what we do. Chief Smith, if you've ever had the privilege to hear him give a presentation on community outreach, and he'll use the example of it's putting money, having a debit card, right? And every outreach is putting that money in the bank. And so when something happens, you can pull on that money when you need it. And that's how we view gaining the followers. It's not necessarily a popularity contest. It's that the more followers we have on any given day, that means when it's time and it's emergency and we need all eyes on our page, they're on our page. So that's why it's important to us. So in-house content creation. How do we do it? An amazing staff. Again, I brought Michael Hernandez up here. I cannot say more positive things about what he's done for us, but everything that you see on our social media or produced by the Sanford Police Department is done in-house. Every event flyer, every recruiting brochure, pictures and filming for video. A lot of people don't realize the enormity of work it takes to put a video together. They actually have to go out and get all that footage separately and then piece it together and then have the right equipment and have the right eye for that. Officers' formal pictures that you saw in that second slide, we have almost a staff of almost 200 individuals, both support staff and sworn. He had to bring them all in individually, and he had to learn a lot of research, called it YouTube School of Education. How do you make those pictures look good, lighting and everything else? And he has managed to do that and done an amazing job with that. Some people might not know, but we actually have a green screen studio, a little room at the police department where we can film a lot of these videos in-house. Why is that important? We brought in a company to give us an estimate on one recruiting video a few years back when we were really in this recruiting predicament that I'll talk about in a minute. And they gave us a price tag of $30,000 to do one 3 to 5 minute video because how complex it is to film us in all the different locations, doing all the different things. $30,000. We obviously didn't want to put the money in that facet in that regard, so we do it on our own. And so some of that is that in-house filming. We use the green screen if we need to. And again, daily media content creation. So it isn't all selfies and posts. And where I say this again, it's not always rainbows and butterflies. But it is important to understand that communication, by definition, is a two-way interaction, right? We send a message and we have to receive a message. And what is best practices is leaving those comment forums open on social media. And I know this is something, especially as commissioners, has come up throughout the years, is the comments that you see on social media. And sometimes they're just ugly, right? But unfortunately, that's a government forum, and they have First Amendment rights. And so we do have filters, which would be, in essence, think of it as like the meeting rules, right? Certain curse words will auto-filter where they don't show up. But outside of threats, we cannot censor what's put up there. On top of that, we like to have that customer service-oriented approach, kind of like, think of Pepsi, right? Or, I don't know, a clothing brand that you like and you see their Facebook. When you see a customer go on there and say, hey, I was really not pleased with the product I got. What tells you that they're a legitimate company and that they're doing their best is when you see them go on and respond to that. And so that's what you see on our page. You'll see us interacting. So the top example is somebody that said, did a community outreach post that we got a car seat donated, and somebody said, I need a car seat. And so you'll see, can you send us a direct message, and let's get that information in the right hands. And the other side of that spectrum is this was from a YouTube account where they had posted a video of an officer, one of our marked units, and said, hey, they're speeding, and the comments were starting to generate. So we, of course, internally have mechanisms where we look into that matter. But what do we need to do? We want to communicate that we're not ignoring that. So we went on to that site and said, hey, thank you for letting us know. We're looking into it, and we'll address it. And it kind of shut it down immediately, and that's the response that we want, that we hope for. And the other important thing that I wanted to talk about with thinking of social media is, think of it as a continuum, right, a bell curve. And I was taught I took a master PIO class with FBI LEDA, and one of the things that they kind of reinforced with us is understand that out of 100% of your followers, the top 5% love you, right? You are never going to do anything to change their mind about that. They love law enforcement, and they are going to sing your praises no matter what you do. And on the flip side of that, the bottom 5%, they are never going to like you no matter what you do. And so you kind of want to accept that and not put all your energy into things that aren't going to move. So I try to remind our staff sometimes when we have those moments where people maybe are saying comments that we're looking at that 90%, that 80% of the quiet majority, that we actually can move, we can sway, we can educate. And that's where we focus our energy. And so when we do see a troll or an account like that, sometimes I have to remember if there's 100 comments on a post and there's 5 really nasty negative ones about the police department, that's less than 1% of our followers that actually feel that way. And so to try to keep that in perspective. Not only do we post and we're actively pushing information, we are always kind of monitoring, looking at information. We have crime analysts monitoring social media. But on top of that, as a communications team, we're looking at Sanford 327. There's Sanford 327 uncensored now. That's fun, right? And so they will actually post things on Facebook that they won't notify us. And so that's an interesting new kind of era that we're into, that sharing about crime on Facebook to some people feels like the equivalent of reporting it, even though it's not. So we're finding out that way. This was an example of that. It was a video that was posted of a prowler on the Ring app, and it got in the hands of our analysts. We also saw it on 327. We were able to take that, follow up, and get that pushed out from us in an attempt to identify that suspect and let the public know that we've got a prowler. Everybody kind of make sure you're following that 9 p.m. routine, locking down your house, bringing stuff inside, that kind of thing. So when we talk about traditional media, we have, that is what I call the fast and furious days in our job. The information, the investigators out on scene, they're accumulating it really quickly. A lot of it has to be verified and vetted. So what we initially hear out there may not be the case in 2 hours or 3 hours or the next day. So it's taking all this information that's flooded into our team, processing it through what is actually hard facts, what's not going to change, right? And then what information also is not going to damage the integrity of the investigation. And that's a really complex thing. And we rely on our investigators to tell us, hey, no, let's not put that out because may need that in an interview or something to that effect. But we also have to weigh and balance public safety. What information does our public need to know to maintain their safety or prevent something else from happening? And then that general information sharing. And then the icing on the cake is add public records laws into that and what we are obligated to report or what we cannot report. And that's our job, to focus, process all of that information on the scene, on our feet, and hopefully be in front of media in a full media event within 15 to 20 minutes of responding to a scene. Okay, emergency operations. It is hurricane season, if you didn't know. And so for us, that means being prepared, obviously, for any storm that may come through, but also in the event that the Emergency Operations Center is activated and we go into that state of emergency. When that happens, when we go into a state of emergency or the Emergency Operations Center is activated, we shift, called passing the baton. And so the public safety officer becomes the primary communications officer for the city during a state of emergency. So as you can see, an example, this was the last hurricane last year. The public safety information officer will handle all social media platforms across the board. So we'll be posting for the city, for fire, and for police, all in unison. So what does that look like? I don't know if you guys have ever had the chance to go into the Emergency Operations Center. There are a lot of monitors. If you don't like screens, you're not going to like it. And this is an example. This was my spot, and right next to me, all the monitors are Michael. We work in, again, a 2-team, kind of 24 hours around the clock, 2-team formation, getting information out. Again, that information or that transfer of communication happens at the state of emergency when that emergency operations center is open. You'll normally receive that information from Chief McNeil that he is, emergency operations is open, and he'll have certain bullet points of what's happening. But what that means for us is that we're taking over communications, and from that point we work around the clock in teams of 2. So I may have, and that just depends on the complexity. We may have to go to 3. If it's a really bad storm, we may need more than that, but a minimum of 2. And what we're doing is, on another table, there'll be the public safety representatives, and they are monitoring what's happening out in the field, right? So they're listening to the radio communications that are going from dispatch to the officers and from the officers to the emergency operations center. We're making sure that's all getting logged and that we're paying attention to that. We filter it, make sure it's getting to the other areas within the EOC, but then also filtering what needs to go out to the public. And it's important to note that for us, there's kind of different phases during emergency, right? So if you think of hurricanes, once the storm gets here, it's that hurry up and wait, right? Everybody's now locked down and you're waiting for the storm to get there. Well, what do you think most people do? Flip through their phone on social media. So we want to make sure that we're keeping them occupied, making sure we're providing updates so they're staying focused on us during the storm, before the storm. And then for us, it really actually gets very busy once the storm has cleared. That kind of area, the storm has passed, but we need to make sure it's still safe for our public before they go out on the streets. And so that's where all the communication will start ramping up. The officers are going out, they're patrolling, they're calling out when power lines are down, when lights are down, when areas are flooded. We're taking all that information and pushing it out to the public in ways as much as we possibly can. And then we will do that until Chief McNeil says, okay, the majority is passed, safe for normal operations for the city. We now downgrade the emergency operations center, and I pass that lovely baton back to the Chief of Communications for the city, and she'll do post-storm, post-event communications. So some initiatives that we have currently going on. Recruiting, hot topic, right? I think you guys have talked about it a couple times recently. So the important part with our recruiting is, if you remember, a couple years back, we had a union negotiation that really was public, very public on social media. And that clip from the FOP in that first one, where we were, there was a lot of posts, a lot of chatter about you're losing officers, great veteran officers, and you're losing them to other agencies. We're training them, and then they're getting them, right? They're going for a higher salary. Well, that's true, but one of the things that it made us kind of look at is, what are the metrics? Well, we're looking nationwide at 4.2 years on average for younger generations to stay in one single job. And so it wasn't something that was indicative just to the Sanford Police Department, but that's how it appeared. So we needed to change that narrative. We weren't unique in that way. And so I said, well, that's the case. How do we turn it around? Well, we said, come learn from the best, right? And we put those 3-year contracts into place, right? Come learn from us. We will train you. You give us your all for a minimum of 3 years. And then if you go and you decide to play leapfrog, like a lot of people do, okay, but hopefully in that 3 years, you're going to come learn from us, and then you're going to stay. And so we flipped that script. So at a minimum, it can't be used against us anymore, because that is one of our training or our recruiting initiatives. And then, I don't know if you guys paid attention to social media the last commission meeting, but that was signed, and I think before the ink was dry, it was across all of our social media that we now have a starting salary of $64,000. And I found out today, we got verification from the sergeant in training and recruiting that we did see a spike in applications for police officers in the last 2 weeks. So we are very excited about that. But paying attention and really pushing our recruiting efforts. We've seen 2 MOUs come through in the last couple years. This last one before the current contracts even expired, and so that's important to us, and it's important to us to showcase that and bring in some new great talent into the police department. All right, so future initiatives. I mentioned before about YouTube. Video is king. I'm not sure for some of us, not so young bucks anymore, if it's a good statistic or not, but in 2024, the new statistic is 1/3 of all adults are getting their news and information from YouTube. 1/3. 32%. So that means we've got to change the way we're doing things and really kind of have that video-driven mindset. So you'll see a lot more video content coming out. You should already have noticed that kind of spike in that in stories and that kind of thing. But Michael's in the process of already getting the footage for a rookie vlog series that will kind of chronicle what it takes to become an officer with us in that training phase as a rookie. And that will link to our recruiting. And then also, we'll be launching a SPD's cold case files, because true crime is really popular throughout the nation. And, you know, it's a great way for us to bring some attention to some of these cases that could, you know, get a little more traction in recent times. So that's where we're moving with them. And that is it for our team. Do you have any questions?
Yes,
Oh, okay.
just a couple more comments, questions. One comment, I'm so glad you talked about the 5-year attrition and how you're tackling that, because it's stuck in my craw for many years in my former job about why do we keep trying to fight this battle of they're leaving everywhere. So the focus on the learning is great, because you do that, people do come here to get the training, and then ideally some of them really do like it here and they stay. That's the best you can do, so kudos for that.
Thank you.
What's the status of the recent addition of online reporting? I love that idea, so it's probably too soon to have any metrics on that?
I can look, I can send you the annual report. There are metrics in there for what we had last year. It's still slowly building. It is becoming something that is definitely a resource for, especially at the police department itself, when somebody comes in and they want to do something that's kind of a simple report. We have a tablet right there that they can go over there versus pulling an officer off the road to come in and do something that they could do right there electronically. So we're building initiative. We're going to find ways to keep kind of highlighting that. But so far, we haven't had any negative response, so that's good.
I saw it in social media, but I'm glad that you added the fact that you put it there in the headquarters, because people will get there. They might have to queue up, or they might think, I don't want to talk about it, but I want to report it. So having that right there is great.
And we have a tablet and a stand ready for City Hall when the construction is done, so they won't have to come all the way to the public safety building. That'll be available to them there as well. And they
Super.
can do it from their home. They can do it
Thank
online as well.
Excellent work.
Any other questions? Thank you.
Thank you very much.
I do have a question for Nico. 2 questions. Sprout,
Yes.
is that for business only? Do we have a cost for that? It's within the budget, I'm sure.
I believe it's within the budget. We've been using it for a while, way before I got here, but it's mainly targeting social media accounts. Now, we can add other competitors. They have that function. It just takes like 24 to 48 hours for it to gather all that data.
Okay, but that's great that it does.
Yeah, we can compare pretty much anyone that has that social account towards ours.
Okay. I wonder if they have a free version. Do we have a budget for boosting what we put in social media?
You mean like advertisements
Yeah.
and things like that? I'm not entirely sure about that.
We don't.
About that. Is that something we're interested in, you know, putting some money in?
We don't boost anything, do we?
Okay, just checking.
It's all organic, I would say.
And do you think, are we advertising Sanford Connects enough? Is it getting out there in the
Well-
right places?
Well, actually on Sprout, there is the setting that we have on there where it does it automatically once every couple weeks or so. The issue with that is, you know, when somebody sees it in the algorithm, we can't, predict. It just sort of, it's out there, but if they don't see it, then they may miss it, and then we post something else. So it's almost like a science sort of magic trick, trying to figure out what to post, when, what time, so everyone gets the most eyes on it. But yeah, it's advertised automatically. It was set up that way.
Okay.
Now we're just including the new e-newsletter posting along with Sprout to get that out there as well.
Okay, and final question for either of you. The newsletter is going to be coming?
July 1st.
July 1st.
Yes.
All right.
So,
We can set off some fireworks early when it's out.
yeah.
Thank you, Nico.
I do have one comment, if you don't mind. It's not for you, Nico.
Oh.
It's for the Sanford PD. I just want to say kudos, because I've never been a fan of the Sanford Police Department's social media policy. I appreciate that we've chilled out on the funny anecdotes on Find Them Friday, because to me, all that does is just it creates an environment for negative comments and racism, because crime is not funny, it's not sexy. But I believe that the Sanford Police Department has embraced that, and I do not see those comments anymore. And I am very happy to see how much you're showcasing the community outreach, and we see more engagement there. Also, I've noticed Officer Hernandez, when he does his photos, you can tell that it's an SPD photo because of the blue frame that goes around it, and it keeps other people from taking it and sharing it, and it almost gives it like its identification stamp. The photos are always clear. It just represents the city very well, so kudos to the SPD Communications Department on that.
Agreed.
Anything else? Jennifer?
My name is Jennifer Brooks. I'm the Supervisor of Special Events for the City of Sanford in the Recreation Department. I am a backup member of the Sanford Communication Office when needed, as is Savannah, who works in a museum. Savannah's on vacation this week, so on behalf of the museum and the communications team and the Parks and Recreation Department, I'd like to highlight just a few things of the museum's communication strategy. Okay, so the museum is dedicated to connecting the past to the present, and they only have a two-person team, the curator and the assistant curator, along with 1.5 part-time docents, as well as volunteers. Their office hours are Tuesday through Saturday. Our website, just in the last quarter, had 650 visitors and 904 views. On our website, you can do a couple different things. You can schedule and enjoy a tour. You can also research past and current exhibits, archives, etc. For being a museum, they have fantastic metrics I thought was important to highlight. On Facebook, they have 2,500 followers, Instagram another 1,000, and on YouTube 115. And I will say that the museum manages their own information by themselves, the content creation, monitoring, answering, etc. We do have some cities that we can directly look at as far as metrics goes. Sanford has 2,500 Facebook followers. Lake Mary Museum only has 1,000. Leesburg has 375. The Seminole County History Museum has 2,100 on Facebook, but they have none on Instagram. Winter Park has a very large following on Facebook, but we're very competitive. Our engagement for a museum at 8,500 last year alone, I think, is frankly impressive. Compared to our competitors, we're outstanding, if I say so myself. Social media is only a small part of what they do. Their community engagement and partnerships throughout the city is really where they shine. They're currently, our big new annual thing is going to be the Battle at Camp Monroe, which will be an encampment at Fort Mellon Park every year in February. Also, they do monthly Knowledge on Taps at Wops Hops. They do a quarterly Whiskey and Wisdoms tour on the St. John's River Ship Romance. Likewise, I also do several presentations with the Seminole County Library. There's a few of them. Other engagements include the Sanford Historical Society. This is really with their partnership with them. They do a lot of fun stuff. An adult flashlight Easter egg hunt. I mean, last year they did a tea party, the mini masters, a holiday party. They have like arts and crafts for kids to do. They really focus on all age groups and demographics. They're also heavily involved with Sanford Historic Trust, the Holiday Tour of Homes, the REI Committee, Florida Association of Museums. Our staff has been guest speakers for the Florida Association of Museums. So I think our staff has truly proven themselves to be trusted, visible staff leaders hosting regular and accessible events with authentic, community-driven storytelling and building partnerships throughout the community. I truly believe the Sanford Museum is a model of meaningful community connection through communication. The museum really brings Sanford's history to life. If you'll remember that they do all of this with just a staff of 2 full-time staff members on all digital media formats, social media formats, and in-person presentation in tours and fun and unique ways. With half of one of the 2 people being on vacation, I'm presenting on their behalf. If there's any questions, I'll be happy to defer to our director.
Any questions?
I don't have any questions, but comments. Y'all have done a beautiful job. I even put the museum in my favorites on social media. I think Sanford, especially millennials, love to see that throwback Sanford. Whenever you post pictures of what Sanford used to look like, I see more people engaging on that. If you can continue with that, that's good. It drives more people to the site, but good job.
Thank you very much. They did a really spectacular last year. They did for Black History Month. They did a fantastic job, and I think the year before that they did a great job on the homes. So, yeah,
I second that
they
comment
really
about
do a
throwbacks. That
fantastic job.
is great stuff.
Thank you very much. We appreciate your support as always in Parks and Rec. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, next we have a presentation regarding waste flow. I have Brett Johnson, our Public Works and Utilities Director.
Good evening, Commission. Brent Johnson, Public Works and Utilities Director. Tonight's discussion is about the renewal of Waste Pro's agreement. Before I bring Waste Pro up, just want to give you a little bit of a background on the topic. So we entered into agreement with Waste Pro in about June of 2007. We've gone through multiple renewals. Their next renewal is scheduled to take place June of 2026. So I know the question is, why are we here so early discussing if it doesn't happen until June of 2026? Well, the reason is because depending on which direction Commission wants to go, whether they want to continue the relationship with Waste Pro or whether they want to discontinue that relationship. If we choose to discontinue that relationship, we would need about 10 to 12 months to go through the entire process of selecting another waste hauler. And so that's why we're here today. Another thing I want to mention before I bring Tim up, should we renew in June of 2026, that will be their final renewal, and that will take us until 2030. And so I'll bring up Tim Dolan to answer any questions that you all have and for him to explain Waste Pro's interest in continuing services.
Just wait a minute, because to clarify that last statement, and I think I know the answer, the original contract allowed a certain number of extensions.
Yes, sir.
And this is the last allowable extension.
This is the last allowable extension as a part of that original agreement.
Okay.
Good afternoon, Tim Dolan, 3705 St. John's Parkway, Sanford. I'll also throw a caveat in there on the last comment that there is language in your agreement that you can make amendments to the agreement, so it doesn't necessarily have to be the last term, but we can talk about that as this goes on. Anyway, appreciate everybody giving me the opportunity to come up here and talk. The other part of the reason, and I'll get into it towards the end of what I'm going to talk about with being up here so early, is being able to phase in some pricing, but we'll get to that. Just a couple of comments. You all know that we're based here in Sanford. We have a 20-acre facility over on St. John's Parkway. We employ about 260 plus folks at that location, 63 of which have Sanford addresses. So we are very local and embedded into the community. We also participate individually and as a company in the community. We support a lot of events downtown. Eric over here is our division manager. He serves on the board for the Chamber of Commerce. I serve on the CRA. I live in the historic district, so we have personal ties and personal roots to the city. Part of what we wanted to talk about, or what I'd like to talk about, is we are very interested in renewing our contract with the city. The economy has changed drastically in the last several years. With my role in the company, I look at bids that go out all over the Southeast. Usually these bids on the low end are coming in at 25 or 30% jumps. On the high end, they're coming in at 80% and sometimes higher jumps. I definitely think, and I'll talk to Brent about this a little bit, you're definitely on the...
Can you talk a little louder?
Yes, I'm sorry, definitely on the lower end of that. I'll get a little closer here. So the big thing is we understand the impact on the community, both to businesses and to residents. We wanted to try and approach this a little bit earlier with some time left on the contract and see if maybe we could discuss a step-up program with the city to have the rate change be more of a gliding scale as opposed to a big jump all at once. That was going to be part of the conversation. And again, all we're really trying to do is get to market rates. There are plenty of RFPs and bids that have gone out over the past year in the Central Florida area. So I think there's a very recent book of business to look at and see what the market looks like. And again, we just want to be at a market rate. So that's the initial conversation we've had, and then we're hopefully looking to you folks for some direction, or if there's comments or questions or any information I can provide, I'll be happy to do it.
So what are we looking at in rates? If we do, I mean, is that where we are at this point?
Well, so we haven't gotten deeply into. I mean, I can give you a ballpark. If I had to pin down a number right now, I'd say somewhere in the 20-25% would be the change in rates to get it to a market value. There's a lot of terms and conditions and things to look at within the existing agreement that could change that. And again, I haven't sat down and gone through the negotiating process to sharpen those numbers up a little bit with the city yet. But that's what we're basically asking for, is direction that to allow the city to do that, and then bring back a proposal to the commission to extend the contract.
Okay, Brent, can you come back up? So basically at this point, you're asking, does the commission want to look at renewing the contract and let you do some negotiation and come back, or just go out to bid? Is that the question we're being asked?
Well, that's the question. The question is whether the commission is willing to, and first of all, we have to, I don't know if our council has had an opportunity to review their contract to determine whether or not they're allowed a rate increase as a part of the renewal. That would be something that would have to be answered as well. And then, in addition to that, commission's appetite for a 20 to 25% increase, as Tim Dolan mentioned. Like he said, we haven't had an opportunity to discuss that and negotiate that. The main purpose of bringing this tonight to commission was to determine whether there was an appetite to move forward with the understanding that there will be a rate increase, or to move in a different direction.
Okay. Well, I mean, my personal thought is, I remember when Waste Pro came in, and my suggestion for the slogan on the side of the truck was, "We actually pick up your trash," because of the company that we had dealt with before. And I think over the years, Waste Pro has done a really good job. At times when it's come up, I've sort of compared what are we paying to what other cities in Seminole County are paying. I think we've always been mid to low. So I don't see a problem in moving forward and at least doing negotiation and see where we land. And hopefully, and I would expect that we will land at a place that's good for both us and Waste Pro.
Oh, I would make sure of that. Tim already knows. And I'm not advocating for Waste Pro. Tim, cover your ears, but yeah, they do a pretty good job.
If we're in a position to be able to tell the citizens that those who don't already think that Waste Pro is doing a great job, that we are confident about being able to say, yes, we want to continue to use them without going out for bids. I think there should be enough information out there to Joe Q Public in Sanford that says, this is what we did, why we did it, and everybody is good with that.
Right. And again, we'll just need to be able to show that, we're not giving away the farm. We're getting a deal that would be as good or better than what we would get if we went to bid.
Well, when we come back for commission, we'll make sure that we have something put together where we can show you comparisons of other municipalities. and what they're doing.
We just get some comparisons.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
We all know that, rates are going up everywhere with everything and gas and all of that, so I don't think there's any surprise that there may be an increase.
Yeah.
Every time I've had an issue with Waste Pro in my district, it's immediately resolved, and it's not very many issues.
Yeah. I think it was last weekend I got a call from somebody, and I called Eric, and the response was, let me check, and 15 seconds later it was, we already have somebody on the way.
So if somebody's bear-proof lid gets torn off by the truck, it gets fixed. That is, we are allowed to do that, right? Put those lids on there. Cool.
But I also agree with you guys and speak beyond. They don't just do the normal.
Yeah.
They also support different organizations in the community as well. So they don't have to. So
Best museum around.
So was this just to ask where you want the commission to go from here? Because I thought that there was going to be more of a presentation.
No, that was it, because knowing that there's likely going to be an increase associated with this renewal, like I said, somewhere upwards of about 20–25%, we wanted to make sure that, first of all, commission was comfortable with us proceeding with that understanding. And if not, as I stated, we would have needed time to go through the entire process of advertising and bringing on a new waste haul provider. So that was the purpose.
Now, it's somewhat unusual to continue a contract this long, I think, without Jim saying no.
Not unusual. I mean, if they have the renewals, and he says not till 2030, and we'll argue that later.
All right.
But it's not necessarily unusual.
Well, in the interim, before we come back to the next meeting, I'll work with you as I go through the contract and see what's viable as to any increases that are allowed, and also get back to the commission as to what's allowed with regard to extensions. This sounds more of like a heads up presentation, and then we can get more into the nuts and bolts at the next meeting.
Yes,
Yeah, can we get Attorney Green's interpretation of the contract, not Attorney Dolan's?
That'd be a wise request. All right.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, members of the commission, the one thing I will say is that oftentimes the city manager's office gets complaints. We do not get complaints about Waste Pro. It's very rare that we get complaints about Waste Pro.
And I'm in the complaint district, and I never get them.
That puts me at ease, because I want to know that the citizens are not complaining about what we have, so that we can additionally justify this.
Are we allowed to send information to Mr. Johnson, like if we have some questions, so that he can be prepared to answer those, instead of coming to the meeting and we have questions and then he and Mr. Dolan have to get back to us if we have questions about recycling and so on and so forth, just to be prepared for the presentation?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thanks, Tim.
As the attorneys indicated, it would be better if we
Great
go
job, Eric.
through the city manager's office, and then we can certainly make sure.
Okay.
So, all right, the next item is a continuation of a discussion regarding charter review. This is particularly Commissioner Britton was not part of the first discussion, and so asked that it be continued.
Anybody wants this, they can have it.
Is that the complaint line?
Yeah, we don't want that.
So again, at the other prior meeting, there was some discussion, and again, it's up to the commission how you want to proceed.
And just to review what we talked about last time was, it probably is about time to do review. That if we were to do one, it would be on the 2026 election. And then Attorney Groot sent out the documents from the previous one, which showed that the process started essentially in August. So I don't know if there's any other.
How long does it usually take? I mean, you've had experience with it. How long, if you're going to review it, then it has to go, does it go?
So what Mr. Groot sent us had the whole timeline on it.
Okay.
But it basically, in August, the commission appointed members. At the end of August, that list was sort of ratified by the commission. Their first meeting, I think, was in October. If I remember correctly, they had 120 days. That sounds long. To do the report, I think they met like 6 or 8 times, and the report came back, and then the commission decided whether they would or would not put items on. Yeah, wait here, I have it right here.
And there was also some, the commission also needs to make a determination as to whether you're wanting to do the review by ordinance or by petition. By doing it by ordinance, the commission has more control as to which items are being addressed as opposed to by petition, and then you really open up all the matters. And so you all may want to, if you do it by ordinance, choose specific matters that you want those that you select to address.
Right, and that's what's been done in the past. Every time I've been associated with it, the commission said, here are the things we want looked at, not go look at the entire charter and see what you want to change. Right. But the schedule before the initial meeting was October for organization, and then they met November, December, January, February. They had a public meeting in December, a public meeting in March, and in April they passed their resolution proposing the amendments. And then after, I guess in April, May, it came back to the commission to be placed on the ballot.
Like a 6 to 8 month process.
So.
And the ordinance process excludes the voters of the city?
Mm-mm. What do you mean excludes?
The voters of the city, the petition process, where the city's electors use the petition process, propose amendments.
They can do that at any time.
Okay.
That wouldn't exclude them from being able to do that.
I was just reading back through, testing my memory.
But if we want the charter actually reviewed for specific things, I think last time there were 4 items on the list. And have a committee look at how would you change their charter to address these things.
Okay.
And that's, if I remember correctly, the 2, I guess I've been around for 2 of them.
Number of districts.
Yeah. And actually, that the number of districts was actually one of the items that was given to the committee and asked to be looked at. They didn't come up with that.
And they actually came back with something different than we asked them to.
So, but, pay, the timing between elections and taking office, the number of districts, and I forgot what the 4th one was. I looked over the charter and what we've done, or how things are going. I don't have specific things that I would want them to look at. The only thing I could think of would be if we want to beef up, ethics requirements for the city, which actually could be done by ordinance anyway, not by charter.
I think it feels like it would be more what's not in there versus changing what is.
Ethics requirements for what? Ethics requirements for what?
For
everyone.
The commission.
Okay, so then there would have to be some kind of enforcement action. We don't have that currently.
Well, that could be part of the change.
then I would wonder if we're going beyond our scope, and that,
Well, and that's, I mean, I just threw that out as a one example of something that I see that we might want looked at. If we get to that point, we would hash out exactly what it looks like.
And Mayor, I think it was compensation that was.
Yeah, compensation.
Before.
Thank you.
Unless I'm missing something, there are some sections that are just, they don't include anything. Like there's a section in HR, I think, that is practically empty. And I don't know if that's by design, or we're fine not having it, or just another example.
And I think some of it is because state law preempted what we could do.
Okay, that makes sense. Just wasn't sure if it
And
was an
so
oversight
it was
or.
taken out to agree with state law.
So maybe that we just put a statement in there that says, refer to state law, yada, yada. Okay.
No. So any further discussion on it?
I think we just have to definitely revisit the section on our city manager and how we accommodate that, the whole process of hiring and et cetera.
What do you mean?
Whether or not we do more than just a once-a-year annual review, what is the process for, I think we're fine on the hiring. I'm not going to raise what we've already raised, but do we do anything beyond what we do in the charter to say we have issues with the city manager? Not Mr. Bonaparte per se, just the process.
And whether that would be in the charter or in the contract, too.
True, there is a contract.
And that's part, quite frankly, that's part of the discussion as well, as to,
Mm-hmm.
because as you begin to put meat on the bones as to what are the matters that you need addressed or that you want addressed, whether those matters require a charter review to address those matters, right? If it's a contractual issue that addresses it, then maybe this process is not necessary. So as I start to get more of a feel as to what are the matters that the commission and mayor that you want addressed in this review, we may be able to determine whether that's even necessary.
Okay. And is this something that if there was so much that we wanted to review, we would have, we're talking about committees, that we have specific committees that address specific sections of it, rather than
One committee adjourned.
the whole thing?
Committee for which each of you get to nominate your,
Okay.
I believe it's two that you place on this committee. So if you want to, if it's your pleasure, we can, again, as you start to put some meat on the bones as to what you want to review, and then I can start putting out a map for you as to the process moving forward.
That's what I
Is
was
that what you
asking
want? You
for,
want a
Attorney
map
Green,
as
a
to-
map. So it says, okay, this is how you proceed, this is how you add things, this is how you question.
I'll get that to you.
Okay, good, because I
But
didn't
then
want
you
to.
know what to do and what your options
Exactly,
are. Okay.
exactly.
Okay.
It wasn't to necessarily discuss exactly what's on it, but how do we get started with the process of it? Because in all honesty, Lonnie can send us a lot of stuff. We have a lot of things to review. I don't have time to go through all
I'll
of that,
make
but the
it-
bullet points is
Okay.
perfect.
I'll make it a simple summary so that you're aware of what your steps are, what
Yes,
the
ma'am.
process is.
Mhm.
And then you all can get back to us as to what you want reviewed, if any, and whether the charter review process is necessary based upon what you want done.
Are we allowed to send that back to you as legal before we bring it back to the commission? Because there are some times when I bring things up at the dais and it doesn't really work like that. And then I want to make sure that I'm falling in line with how the city operates. So can we send you information and you let me know, no, Commissioner, that's not how that goes?
Well, individually, I'm always available to any of you.
Okay,
So if you want to meet with me, talk to me, we can always do that.
okay,
But my next step is to make this process so that it is procedurally as simple as possible, that we know how we're getting from A to B.
perfect. I just always like to say it on the record.
Okay.
Wondering if I should feel guilty if I haven't read each and every word in that entire charter yet. I'm getting there.
I have, but don't feel guilty.
Okay, you have. Well, good for you. That's why we hired that new attorney.
Okay. Anything else on that then? Okay. Next thing is the city manager evaluation form. This is the, and you have a slightly modified copy.
Now, when's this supposed to turn in?
No, this isn't to turn it in, this is to talk about the form. So, 2 years ago, we rewrote the form, and the commission sort of agreed on everything that should be in it, and that was the first time anything about comments was included, as that they should or shouldn't be added. Commissioner Britton had suggested that not only poor and below standard, but also excellent should have a comment, and so I just offered an idea of how to rewrite the statement on the front. I don't know. I guess we could look at, you know, how do you require members of the commission to write comments, and what happens if they don't? But before, you know, it was just, you know, we asked that they be provided, and the reasoning being if you can't explain it, then the city manager doesn't know what to do to improve. But I don't know how y'all want to take a harder stance on that, or?
I think that it should be required for both. So, I mean, because if you leave it open to where it's encouraged, then we could still continue to give fives excellence and then someone else give a 1, but it's more encouraged for you to explain a 1 than it is a 5, and I think that that should be explained as well. So I think because of that scale of 1 to 5, a 1 needs a full explanation and a 5. There are sometimes that 3s are looked at as poor, and they're not, they're satisfactory. So a 5 means exceptionally well. A 1 means exceptionally poor. So it should be required to at least elaborate, and I gave in my email examples of how that would work. It doesn't have to be some long drawn out thing, but a 1 and a 5, if you're going to give one of those and not be in the median where it's satisfactory, it should be required to explain it, especially when raises are attached to that as well.
Okay, and so what would happen if somebody did not provide a comment?
Well, if we
Then it
made
would
this
be
a
invalid.
Google form, we could make it a required field, and they'd have to fill it out.
And then what do we do if somebody doesn't turn their form in on time?
Nobody ever really turns it in on time. You always have to come back and tell people to fill out their forms. And it shouldn't be a what if, it's just required.
Doesn't it already say what it means when you have 1 through 5? Excellent, almost, always exceeds expectations and performs at a very high standard. It already explains that stuff. So you just want us to put more detail on it?
Right, because if I gave a 1, and some might say, well, that's unfair if you gave a 1 and you were not able to explain that 1, right? Then you should also be able to explain that 5 because you're saying exceptionally well. Because what could happen is somebody just says, well, I feel he's doing a good job, or he or she doing a good job. I'm just going to give 5s down the board. Or I really don't feel like doing an evaluation. It's okay, I'm going to do 5s. And
Well, 1 says rarely meets expectations. So, I mean,
Pretty
it already
self-explanatory.
says, it tells what's going on. I mean, instead of putting extra on there. I mean, I understand what you're saying, but it tells in every single one of what the 1 through 5 stands for.
okay, so if I put a 1 all the way through my evaluation, it really should not have to have an explanation.
It says rarely meets expectations.
If that's good enough for the commission,
I mean,
it's not
If
satisfactory.
we had all
for me.
1s or all 5s on an evaluation, I would say that's statistically insignificant and throw it out.
well, if somebody puts
No,
all
I'm not
1,
the boss, but that's what I would do.
if somebody puts all 1s or all 5s, then that's how they feel, and that's on them. All of us up here entitled to our own opinion.
Right, but we're evaluating on behalf of the people that we represent,
I know
and
that.
we owe, well, I'm not trying to bicker about it, I'm just saying that there should be some clarification, because anything, the 2, 3, and 4, that's fine, but that 1 says, you really, you know, we need to set some expectations, we need to look at what's going on here, and then a 5 Like literally, that means the city is a well-oiled machine or whatever that item is doing exceeding expectations. So you need to be able to say, okay, this is what happened. And I made that clear in my email with an example.
But
you know.
I just believe that if somebody puts a 1 or somebody puts a 5 and they want to clarify, then that's on them.
Okay. And I think
That's
I would
what I
probably the
feel.
one that put if it's a 1 or a 2, you should explain.
Yeah.
On the basis that, it should be, not used, it's not just for evaluation, but it's for improvement, and they need to know what they need to improve. So I lean a little more to 1s and 2s need a comment more than 5s need a comment, but I can see the point of why you would want to comment on a 5.
But what if I say,
Carrie's my homeboy, and I just like him, and I'm gonna give him 5s because I like him as a human being. That's not necessarily correct.
There's nothing wrong with that.
You don't want
You give me 5 because I deserve a 5.
Maybe not, though. I maybe give you
No.
5 because I think you're good.
But you do that. You think I'm good anyway, and so you still gonna give me a 5.
Okay, Commissioner Austin?
Under the current system,
I got you. I don't have it. Honestly.
from what I understand, averages are done, correct?
Mm-hmm.
How is it determined that the raise is given? It's determined by the average,
No, well, technically, it's determined by us.
okay?
The last 2 years, I have asked, what does the average evaluation score
Right.
mean against our normal scoring system? What somebody pointed out to me today, one of our staff members, was, and, the evaluators are more trained than we are
Right.
and rarely give 5s.
Okay.
And I guess they rarely give 1s because
Okay.
I would
Okay.
hope if somebody's getting 1s, they may not be here very long.
Okay, so my point is that it doesn't matter if he gets 1s or 5s. The 5 of us vote if he's getting a raise or not. It
Oh,
doesn't
shoot.
matter what his score is. We still vote if he gets a raise or not.
Right.
Typically, it's the same raise all the other employees get, a percentage of his pay.
Right.
So the rating, whether we explain 1s or 5s or 4s or 3s or 2s, it doesn't matter. At the end of the day, we, as a collective body, vote how to proceed at the end of the evaluation.
Right.
Okay.
And so that's why I said the evaluation form is, to me, is also very much how do I improve, or what am I doing good or bad on? And, as the employee, what do I need to do differently?
Quite honestly.
And that's how, I know when I get evaluated, that's what I'm looking for.
Well,
If I'm not doing well, what do I need to fix?
That's fine if there's a process that says you're not doing what we expect you to do. That's why we gave you a 1, and we have to now take some action as a result of that. We don't have that. So what's the point?
well, that's my point about the evaluation. What is the point?
I was wondering if that's where you were going with
Yeah.
this.
It-
Either
I
it's
have said-
legitimate and we use it
Right, I've said for
to
years this
improve
evaluation is a
behavior.
waste of time.
Well, I disagree, because I think there are things that that the city manager has been rated low on. We recognize that. We said we want improvement in this area, and there's been improvement in that area.
We also started, for the first time ever, 3 years ago, started doing goals. 2 years. Okay.
Yeah, it's the 3rd year of goals.
Okay, this is the 3rd year of goals, and we also have seen an improvement in a lot of areas just by setting goals, have we not?
I agree with that. I agree with that.
So, I think we are pulling hairs here. We are wasting time on a process that at the end of the day, the document doesn't really matter. Other than it's a public record, each of us turn in, but a public record could be done in numerous ways. My agency now does a evaluation process where I evaluate myself. Well, I don't even evaluate myself. I just set goals. Okay, and then I get evaluated, but it doesn't matter because I don't even get a raise based on that evaluation. And I think
And the
spend a
opposite
lot
of that is to have a complete
They
matrix
spend a lot
that
of time
relies on
and
this.
money on these evaluations every year, and I think it's a complete waste of government dollars. And that is my problem with this evaluation. I feel like it's a complete waste.
Unless we
Uh,
use it,
as- Okay, but,
at least in part, to determine,
but under our charter and under his contract, we are limited in what we can do and how we can use this anyway. And so we don't have a lot of teeth up here. And
Oh, I
so,
think we have a lot of teeth.
No, we don't. Excuse me.
But we really, the teeth comes down to one action that's possible.
right, just one,
Yeah.
just
Okay.
one, yeah.
All right, I see your point. Okay, so are you suggesting we go to some completely different evaluation type of process?
Well, we've asked for that, and our previous HR guy said that he thought this was about the fairest way to do it. I believe our current HR director must agree, because she hasn't suggested we change anything, and we kind of still have been doing the same way.
I would hesitate to even go in the other direction of, say, do it twice a year instead of once a year, because you'd kill me.
I think evaluations are extremely important, and I don't want to keep saying he. I'm saying he or she, whomever we may get in the future. If I just decided I wanted to do a vote of non-confidence in the city manager just because I was upset this week, this would be the opportunity for the city manager to say, well, you voted me 5s all along here, and you gave me examples of how I exceeded the expectations, and this is where it is. Or it would say, okay, listen, this person is not making a complaint or a vote of non-confidence out of thin air. These have been the last evaluations, and she's been able, or he has been able to explain fully of the concerns from her, the businesses, the constituents, so on and so forth. It is a record of performance. That's why I think it's important. And then the reason why I said because we're giving raises is because this is public record, and anybody can go into it and look and say, okay, well, the commission gave the current city manager a 7% raise. I want to see what the evaluation looked like. And then they can go in and say, well, Commissioner Britton said all of this, and these were the additional comments. It's documentation. It's proof that we are holding accountable, that we are setting goals. It's important for everyone. I don't think that we should just put it out.
Well, but you mentioned a key word there, goals. We don't even have on this form every year what the goals were and whether or not.
He put it in there this time.
Did he?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was between the HR director and myself. That was a miscommunication on the last one. That's why you got a revised one.
Okay, now I remember.
Because the newest goals weren't on there, but we've already put this year's goals on there.
Okay.
And there are a lot of them.
That has a little bit more meat to it than.
Yeah,
just
we
a-
have seen improvement as a result of those goals. So are the goals integrated with the performance review process? They come out of it. I mean, we have the annual review first,
Well, yeah, and
then we have the strategy session and set
we've
goals.
got to get better at how quickly we get everything done,
Mhm.
because it took 6 months to get to the finalized annual goals.
Whoa.
Yeah, that's not our fault, though. We
No.
had to do those
No,
surveys.
That
we
was
had-
our fault.
No.
So we're going to do better this year.
We did
Right.
like one survey a month, and then that took up a couple months, those surveys.
We did like 2 surveys.
It-
And we did those after we had
It
our
seemed
meeting.
like they were 100.
Yeah, we did. Okay, so,
That's
All
why
right,
we
well,
put those
it's-
additional work session schedules together.
and that may be the thing, yeah.
Yeah.
But in terms of, other evaluation things, we searched many other cities and counties, and unfortunately, they do almost all look the same. And we sort of picked and chose questions from different ones or formats from different ones.
Yeah, I remember that.
So, I mean, we didn't just grab an evaluation form. We spent some time looking at it and deciding this is what we wanted.
Let's bring this back to the original question, because I do like the idea of encouraging, at a minimum, justification for 1s and 5s. Because I agree with Commissioner Britton, it's just too easy to throw a number out there without saying why you're doing it, when it comes to something that has more of an impact than 2, 3, 4.
I think it holds us accountable as well.
Yep.
Well, I don't want us to be like the folks in Tallahassee and throw out words like required. And then there is absolutely no teeth, no mechanism for anyone that doesn't do the required.
I said encouraged.
Well, I know that.
And since it's
that's-
public record, then the public sees the
Exactly.
evaluations and they
Then-
can hold commissioners
then
accountable.
Our employers will see
Yeah.
that we're not doing what was
Mhm.
asked of us.
Mhm.
But when you start doing required, I feel like there needs to be an enforcement mechanism.
You're right. I agree with
And I
that.
don't like that,
Okay.
because we're not
I
gonna
find
do
it
it.
very difficult to come up with what would be the enforcement mechanism
Right,
for
right.
making you put a comment next to your.
Right, well, just like
number.
when you talked a few minutes ago about the ethics stuff for the charter review, what would be the enforcement mechanism? Currently, is this a collegial body?
Collegial.
Collegial. Currently, this body has no enforcement on ethics.
I think that the most we could do is vote a censure or something like
Right,
that.
right.
It's like,
And that's like my verbal reprimand I
Right.
get every once in a while at the sheriff's office.
woo-hoo! Oh, I thought you were gonna say at home.
No, I get those daily at home.
We don't need to know.
Those
that.
matter. The verbal reprimands at the sheriff's office, not so much. Oh, goodness.
Okay, so let's wrap it up.
Okay.
Move with encouraged
Encourage.
for those three. For
1, 2,
4
5.
below and excellent.
I think the 5s and 1s.
Yeah, 5s and 1s are fine for
Is
me.
that a good
Yeah,
medium?
Okay. All right, and then Commissioner Thomas's
Yeah, I didn't have any
Um,
other changes other than just correct.
clarifications and corrections and stuff are in there, and so, all right. I would like for us to do this a little sooner, or at least get the form a little sooner this year, because usually we wait until the first meeting in October, and then unless somebody forgets and we do it the second meeting in October is when we hand out the forms.
It's not enough.
And then we want them back, and, you know, I think this is the first year we may have actually done the actual evaluation before the start of the new year.
Well,
But I was thinking if we got them out like the first meeting in September, and that they're due back in October.
that's fine. You also have to remember we have limited meetings.
Right,
So,
in
no,
November,
so it's
December,
not-
yeah.
It's not so much. And then, when do we have time to discuss it on the agenda? So
But that-
I'm not sure the timing at all fits well, other than the fact, everybody else in this city apparently gets reviews and evaluations at all kinds of different times a year.
Their anniversary.
Right. I've always wondered why ours, for the city manager, is at the busiest time of year when we don't have a lot of meetings.
But that's how we've always done it.
Actually, Commissioner, that's my anniversary,
Oh, is it?
September.
Which one?
September.
Okay,
Well, then,
it's work anniversary.
we need to have these by August.
And I think as long as we're evaluating an entire year, it shouldn't matter too much what that period is, from what month to what month.
Yeah.
When
Yeah,
is,
but, you know, your point's well taken, you know, we have a meeting in November and a meeting in December.
Right,
and
Mhm.
right.
You miss one of them, you know.
Yeah.
So, okay, so we could have these out in July to be returned by the end of August, and, what?
First or second meeting,
Hmm?
first or second meeting. in
Well, we
July.
can hand them out,
Second meeting in July, have them do second meeting of August.
which means we're not evaluating August, September, because they haven't happened yet,
We're evaluating the last year. So that's
more or
what it
less.
is.
To be
Evaluating
technical.
the last year, giving the manager 2 months before it's done. 'Cause this is from last September to
Right.
this September.
So we would really be evaluating 10 months, which is not a big deal, but just
But
so
you're
we're
giving the
aware of
manager
that.
what you're gonna evaluate
okay.
them on.
Kind of giving him free rein to do whatever he wants in
No.
September.
No, but
I'm kidding.
if there were goals he was waiting or needed time to finish,
Yeah, the
then
goal-
the
I mean,
goals may not be,
The goals were not finalized until
yeah,
last month,
yep,
but that's not on him.
no, that's
No.
not.
No.
Yeah, but he's already doing more. Okay.
So the September is because that's the anniversary.
Right.
It started in September, so that's why September. And if the commission on June 23rd decides these are the goals for the period from September of 2024 to September of 2025, then that gives the manager, and if you want to then start it in July of 2025,
But we're going to have that issue anyway. What if we move 1 month this year and 1 month next year?
That's a good
And
idea.
in our evaluation, we need to take into account
Mhm.
when the goals were finalized.
I like it.
That
Make it
work?
so.
And so evaluations will be due at the end of September, so that we can have a meeting in October to discuss.
And when are you gonna be having them
So we're getting
available
them in
for
August.
review?
You can have them as soon as I click the button to remove all the red ink.
Well, but what is our period that we are basing it on?
October
We're not
1
changing
through, October 1 through August 30th, I guess.
So that we're doing the evaluation before the period is over.
Well, unless we change the period to August
Yes,
instead of September.
we're shifting the evaluation period a month forward, so that we can have the time for the discussion in a timely.
I'm talking, okay.
Okay, tell me where am I missing?
We're setting his goals in June. We're gonna start his evaluation in August, 2 months later? What period of time are we basing the evaluation on? At that point.
October 1, 2025, until whatever the date of the second meeting in September is, I guess.
That,
You mean October 1,
2024?
2024?
September 24?
No, you meant October 1, 2024.
You said 25.
Yes, 24.
You said we were evaluating.
I'm sorry, I was reading the dates off the current form, and they've already been updated. Okay. So October 1, 2024. No, it would really, I mean, in my mind, it's still through September 30th. I'm just turning the form in a week before September 30th. I don't see something changing in the last week or two that's going to dramatically change my evaluation. And if it does, I get to bring that up when we speak about it.
so we're still evaluating from October of last year through and including the new goals that we've set in June.
But also, he heard us talking about the goals along the way. So, but I mean, technically, we cannot say, oh, you did a horrible job because this goal we gave you, you didn't get it done. I think we're all reasonable people up here and can handle this.
I don't know about Commissioner Wiggins.
I swear to God, I thought you was gonna say Commissioner Britton. For the sake of the dates, do you not want the dates to reflect a period prior to the evaluations being due. So if you issue an evaluation that says it's through August, even though everyone here understands it, as a public record, someone pulls that evaluation and it's dated June and it's for a period ending in August.
No, it'll be dated September. We're gonna turn them in September.
Oh, I think you had the same question I did, though,
Well,
because
that
if
was the
they're
point I was
due
trying to
from
make.
us in August, because we need that time, it doesn't reflect that period of time from August to September.
No, I said make them due in September, I thought.
Oh, due in September?
Due in,
That's
because
what I did not
before,
understand.
they were
Okay.
due,
Oh,
they
I
were
thought we were
due in
pushing that up to
October or
August.
November.
Okay.
And then we finally got around to talking about them in December or January for the evaluation period that ended in September.
Yeah.
Now I'm saying have your evaluation in September
In September,
for the period that ends in September.
September 1st or September 30th?
It'll be the last meeting in September.
Okay, so
They would
that
be due the last
period
meeting in
is
September.
through the end of September.
Yeah, the evaluation period would still be September 30th.
And that's when they would be due from us.
And but they would be due, that's really up to Sharon. I would expect that most of us would turn them in at the last meeting in September.
Yeah.
But if you wanted to wait until the 30th, I'm sure she would be okay
Well,
with
it's
that.
just, you can presume that nothing's going to change between September 1st and September 30th.
Right.
But if you turned it in early, which would be good for Sharon, it just means it's based on that, not the official end of September period.
Right. But like I said,
Which is not uncommon.
if something goes horribly wrong in the last 6 days of September,
Yeah.
in October, when we have our meeting, I'm bringing it up.
Okay.
So can I ask this, Mayor? Because I heard some people complain last time about why are we having the evaluation, the process publicly, like at a meeting? And last time when I came to do my evaluation, I was expecting for us to have like a full-on evaluation, but there was limited time. What's the consensus of the commission about how we go through the actual evaluation? Because a lot of times it's like, I have so much that's listed, Art has so much that listed, and literally we're going back and forth and people are chiming in. Or is this a special meeting that we have with the city manager discussing these items, and it's still public, but it's not at a 7 o'clock meeting?
I think this is one of the extra work sessions that Commissioner Thomas suggested.
Right, but are we gonna put this on the extra work session? That's why I'm asking.
To do nothing but-
Suggested a few minutes ago.
Yeah.
Okay, all right.
So Kathy's making a note of that in our special session.
And what's the date on, we only got 1 or 2?
Extra
One or
session.
two meetings.
Special meetings. is one.
Yeah, and I
What's
would,
the date on them?
The 10th and possibly the 17th?
Okay. I won't be able, I can do the
Budget.
10th. I might not be able to do the 17th, but.
That Cindy did want me to remind you, we
Yeah,
have the
10th and
special
17th.
budget meeting on July the 10th at 4 p.m.
Yeah.
I think we have a plan.
All right.
Can I just confirm one thing,
Yeah.
Mayor?
And if not, I'll just make up something new.
So the overall end result was you would like to have the evaluation done the first or the second meeting in September?
They should be
Done by the second.
yeah, they should be turned in by the second meeting, but we'll talk to Sharon about that.
Okay.
When's the first meeting in October? Or actually, if it's a special work session, it would be the third Monday in October, which should be plenty of time for her to put those together. So end of September.
Okay. Yeah, the first
So they'll
meeting,
technically be due the September 30th.
okay. Thank you.
And Kathy, what I'm hearing is a special meeting the third Monday of October.
Yes.
Which would be the 20th.
Correct.
Okay.
And we do that as a special work session at 4 or a regular 7 o'clock time? Preference?
What do y'all want to do?
Why are we having a special meeting for that?
To discuss nothing but the performance review. You don't like that either?
Claudia had suggested we have an extra quarterly work session so that we have time to really explore things if necessary.
And it's necessary.
I've seen this happen at other cities, and I like the idea of just putting it in the calendar and then seeing if we need them. Doesn't mean we're required to come. But there might be those couple of times a year, once a quarter, when, like this, we want a focused meeting on a particular topic. So if we try this year and decide, you know, this might be a good thing to do every year when we're doing the review, or we decide, no, we don't need it.
We can't do that in our normal 2-hour work session and not discuss anything else?
Absolutely not. And I didn't mean that with any disrespect, Commissioner Austin. It's just we have such limited time, and we set like time limits on the different agenda items that we have, and we're always going over. And especially when you get someone like me who it's hard to articulate exactly what I'm trying to say, and then I say something and then you disagree or you agree, then that takes even longer. I just, you know, and sometimes the public doesn't even recognize that sometimes when we're going back and forth with each other, it's because it's our first time discussing items. This gives us a little bit more talking, discussion, dialogue amongst each other, because honestly, we do not have that opportunity to talk.
About something important that we only do once a year.
Right. Or other items that come before us on behalf of our constituents.
Ms. Green, will we need to do a resolution to add that special meeting onto the calendar?
Yes, yes.
Okay. Now,
just
since
call it
it would be the end of the calendar year, we would only have to do the one quarterly meeting and have the resolution for the October meeting, correct? And then we can do quarterly ones beginning in 2026.
Say that again.
So every year we do a calendar year and we do the calendar with the commission meeting dates. So because this is in October, it would be towards the end of our calendar year. And we were just thinking about doing it quarterly, so that's every 3 months. So when we do the calendar for next calendar year for the meeting dates, we would have to include the regular meetings along with the quarterly meetings and the budget meetings and all the other special work sessions that we have, correct?
Right, when you do the calendar, you'll put them all on there, and then as we progress through the year, mayor and commissioners will decide which ones we're going to use and which ones we won't, but they'll be on the calendar.
Right, but we usually decide that at the end of the calendar year, at the end of the calendar year, not the fiscal year.
Yeah, but
So with
for
this meeting
one, I
that,
could just call a special meeting, though, couldn't I?
Just to address the evaluation? Yeah, I think you
Yeah.
could just,
We've done that
call a special meeting for this.
okay, but in the quarterly meetings that they were wanting to see on the calendar, should those be added to the regular meeting dates for our next calendar year?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
If I could, Mr. Mayor, because there are 6 months left to this current calendar year, and the idea of quarterly, that would mean 2 additional meetings. Is that something the commission wants, or just simply setting up that October meeting as the only quarterly meeting this year? But there are 6 months left, so you could have, if you want to do 2 quarterly, if you want to do them quarterly, you could have 2 in 6 months.
You're correct about that.
Well, here's what I would say about that, is we already have the special one in July to talk just about the budget. So we have a special work session there. We add this one, you know, unless somebody comes up with a topic that we need to
I'd be fine with that.
add
One
a
per
meeting.
quarter, not counting the yearly budget. in July.
Yeah. I mean, the budget one to
Does that
me
make
is
sense?
one of them.
I know, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
One per quarter, already counting the yearly budget in July.
Agreed.
I'm not so sure, and I don't want to speak for Commissioner Thomas, I'm not so sure she wanted us to toe the line on exactly spacing out each quarterly meeting.
No, it's just.
Just an idea of having extra
Yes,
discussion meetings.
yes. The idea of, because we do have to advertise them, get them
Right.
into the calendar, put them in there.
Right.
And then easier to cancel than last minute, realize we have something important outside of the normal.
And so for this one on the 20th, are we doing it at 4 p.m., which still limits us to, it's still going to still be a 2, at most 3-hour meeting.
Yeah, and I think it's better to start it later when everybody can attend, since we only have the one topic and we need the time for
Are
it,
you
but
talking about July, or are you talking about this October?
October.
the October.
If it's gonna be, if that's gonna be the only part of the
Mhm.
day,
Mhm.
then perhaps we try to do a 3-hour meeting if necessary,
Mhm.
and have some kind of sandwich or refreshments or something up here for us to power through.
Starting at what time?
4?
Okay.
If you're okay with 4.
Because
I'm flexible.
you'll be back to work by then, right?
Yeah.
So 4 o'clock works for you, right?
Are you sure, Professor?
Okay. All right.
Okay, make it so.
So, and we will have a special work session on October 20th.
10/20th at 4
at
p.m.
4 p.m. to do the city manager's evaluation.
Good.
Okay.
And the LDRs are on the regular agenda,
Right.
right?
Yeah, that was the regular meeting item, is the LDRs. Mr. Barnhart?
Yes.
Do we need to?
That's up to you. When it's put on the work session, it's in case the commission has
Yeah.
questions they want to ask staff before the regular meeting.
Mm.
And there's not really a whole lot in there that changes. Okay, all right, we'll do that tonight. Okay, briefing items.
The only other item that's not on the agenda, in case there's any discussion, is the resolution regarding the Fourth Amendment for the William Clark properties. Craig has indicated that he spoke with the Sanford Housing Authority last week, and they're waiting on HUD to approve a 5-year plan and moving to work initiatives, and then HUD can move to dispose the properties, and that's why we're seeking a continuation.
Okay. All right, and then we have one add-on.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, and that's for the exit door for Commission Chambers. We did just get the information on that one and wanted to bring it to you for your consideration for this evening.
I'll be recommending we save a little money because me and Patrick are going to do the demolition. Just give me a sledgehammer.
I told him I've cut a hole in solid concrete wall before. Okay, anything else, Mr. Bonaparte?
Yes, the city has been asked to identify a delegate for the Florida League of Cities Conference that's coming up. And it's up to the commission in terms of which member will be attending and which they want to designate as the delegate to cast a vote for the city of Sanford at the Florida League of Cities annual business session.
Now, it's like, this is $650 registration.
The same thing I just asked you
So-
to register me for, and I
Yeah.
wasn't sure we needed a delegate assigned.
But, and I looked at the schedule, there's some things I can go to without having to pay the $650, and since I'm not going to go the whole time, I have a hard time having the city pay $650.
Yeah.
But I think there should at least be an understanding or an informal policy, I don't know what the policy is for employees, that if the city is paying for a conference, that we're expected to attend the entire time, unless there is some, emergency kind of thing. So I think I will not have the city pay for me to go. The League of Mayors stuff I can go to on Wednesday without paying. There's some stuff on Saturday I can go to. Otherwise, it'd be like $650 for me to go to 3 workshops. So, Patrick, were you going to go?
I just saw it today, and was looking at it. I don't think so, but being in Orlando, it's a possibility, so.
Last time I was in Orlando, I just drove back and forth.
Yeah, but I'll say this, to go to the Saturday business session, I don't think we need to pay the full registration fee. We can attend that meeting as a voting delegate, I believe.
Okay.
That makes
Well,
sense.
you're technically our liaison to Florida League, I believe. Do you want to go to the business meeting, or do you want us to designate our newest commissioner?
Well, if Commissioner Thomas is going to the conference, then let's let her do it.
Could we pay that fee and then send various people to different sessions?
No.
And just have a generic name badge that says Sanford Commissioner?
Yeah, no, unfortunately, they check you in at the beginning of the conference,
And there's certainly value to going.
oh, yeah, there's
If I could
huge
go all the
value.
time, I would say it's worthwhile.
No, up until my stroke last year, I went every year and attended every session possible, and
And was
even
a delegate.
presented one time. So it was an annual thing that I definitely valued. I just don't have as much time off from work after being out of work, sitting on my duff in the hospital and rehab all those months, so.
All right, so you're a maybe, and you'll let the city manager know. Commissioner Wiggins, are you planning on going? No, Commissioner Britton?
I'm not sure yet. I haven't looked at it, but I go to all of the conferences, especially the ones that we're talking about. But I'm not sure yet. I'll look at it today.
All right, so then by consensus, we'll make Commissioner Thomas our voting delegate. Congratulations.
Well, but Commissioner Britton hasn't been able to look at it yet. Should we wait and see if you,
No, you go right. Because I look at what I've taken last year, the last classes, and if they don't have anything that's different, then I don't, you know.
well, if I do it, I'll take copious notes for all of us.
Wonderful.
All right,
Because you know that's how I roll.
so everybody's okay with Commissioner Thomas as our voting delegate?
Yes.
Okay.
The newest member appreciates
I
it.
think it's a great experience for a person.
Oh, I think so too.
Yeah,
Mhm.
Definitely.
then I'll pass the baton back.
And you get to meet a lot of people from other cities.
The
and-
networking is
and
sometimes
discuss.
most valuable.
That's the best
Yeah.
part.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay,
And
thank you.
do you have anything else? I also put something about Senate Bill 180 at your spot.
Yes, I will be calling.
I can't find my copy of it.
Who is this from? What is
Basically,
Take action link.
the front page is from Thousand Friends of Florida.
Oh, okay.
And there is a place on their website, it's hard to find, you have to find the Take Action button.
Okay.
And you can click on that and send the canned letter. The part of the bill that is significant to us, I pasted in there. And Eileen will correct me if I'm wrong, because she was following it all along. But basically, if there's been a hurricane, and we're within 100 miles of the hurricane path, or we're in the disaster area, for 1 year after the hurricane, we cannot strengthen our building, our land development regulations in our comp plan to say things like, oh, we shouldn't build there because that floods. Or we need higher standards to
We don't want shop XYZ in this area.
and
That's what's happened, and that's why this was.
but the problem is there's a hurricane every year.
Yeah.
So it would put us in a position that I'm not sure we would ever be able to make changes that we might want to make.
Well, but I'll tell you, I believe there are certain areas that have had the experience of being almost completely wiped out. And certain government bodies decided that was a great time to change the way we do things and change zoning. And that was really kind of I think the impetus of where this came from.
Okay. But they should have written it better.
Yes, absolutely. Well, they never do their job right in Tallahassee. Come on.
So, but I just wanted to share that with everyone, and, I didn't have that insight, but I do know what you're talking about now that you brought that up. Commissioner Thomas, is this one that you followed?
Yes,
Okay.
it's on my tracking list.
Do you have anything to,
Oh, other than the fact that I'll be sending it, yeah.
okay,
I may send it in multiple channels.
okay,
Time is fleeting.
Oh, I'm not saying I'm for it, I'm just saying
okay.
where
Well,
it
it's on the
came
governor,
from.
it's
The
on
way
the
it's
governor's
written right
desk.
now, we need to get
Yeah.
just,
See, it's the same thing about the bills that attack the CRAs.
Right,
We know why that's happening, because there's been some really fishy stuff that's happened.
right. So
But then they come out and they go, all y'all are bad, and
Yeah.
I do not like that theory.
the baby is going out with that
Yeah,
bathwater.
yeah,
Not-
yeah.
well,
So I will leave this as, if you individually want to take action. Okay.
Well, if you wanna take action as a body tonight, I'm not trying to fight against it.
Okay. We can bring that up. Okay. Commissioner Thomas, anything?
Other than I would like to take it up as a body.
No, I mean, for the rest of the,
No,
before we adjourn anything?
nope, comments will
Okay.
be tonight.
All right, Commissioner Austin?
I am curious about the firefighter and why we're not progressing like we did with the police. Can we discuss that?
Chief is here, he can share with you where we are.
Okay.
Good question, Commissioner Austin. I was thinking about that too.
I'm sure it's the other guy's fault, not yours. So I'm not upset with you at all.
I met with them today,
Oh, good. Awesome.
and they declined our offer.
Okay.
So they're
Okay.
supposed to get back with me, with about here, probably the end of this week with the next meeting.
Okay.
So,
Well, but at least we are communicating that there was an accusation that there was a little bit of a gap, so.
I cannot say anything about that. I was out. I
Right,
don't
right,
know.
right.
When I came in, I took over whatever was
Okay.
prepared. I asked
Fantastic.
for, direction. I got some direction, and that's where we're going.
Okay.
Chief is back, things are well in hand. Well, they were before anyway.
Anything else? Commissioner Wiggins?
Good.
Commissioner Britton?
Really quickly, because I know it's 6:15, Mayor, City Commission, and not that I have more than any other district, but District 1 has lots of new businesses that are coming in. And it's kind of difficult for me to try to stay out of it and then, still do my job as a commission. But the site development requirements and regulations, I'm trying to figure out a way for the city without the city commission overstepping their boundaries to assist in being more business friendly. For example, I got a contact from the business owner off of 13th Park. I'm pretty sure you all are familiar with that, the new golf cart business that's coming there. And now they're being required to do about $70,000 worth of site development, landscaping work there. At first, I couldn't understand it, but I know that we do have rules. And then when I was doing my research and after talking with Mr. Ramondo and looking at what the commission had decided regarding the property on Sanford Avenue and 25th Street with Mr. Michael Williams, with his site development regulations and how we had to stay by the book on that one, it's not, how do I say this? I'm not trying to show favoritism, but we are trying to encourage development. We're trying to encourage these buildings that have been vacant for decades, people to come into our area and to be hit with so many development requirements is alarming. But as a commissioner, I'm not really sure how I move forward with that one, with trying to be business friendly, but also saying we have requirements for a reason. So I don't know if,
we have, as a commission, we have set the rules of what sites have to look like when uses change. And as the commission, we can change those rules.
Right. And so, but I don't want, it's difficult, like I said, because we just had this discussion regarding Mr. Williams' property with the same kind of issues.
Which, by the way, the landscaping is back.
Yeah,
Yes,
it is.
right, but we had to, well, we all were here. So, but then again, it's like that catch-22. We're trying to get people to come and invest in Sanford, and they're hit with many stumbling blocks, and $70,000 worth of site development landscaping is a lot when you're trying to open a new business. So I don't know if we have well, I guess we have the authority, but how to approach it, Attorney Green, to say maybe we think outside the box and this is something that we do as they gradually open, or is that not something that the commission would like to do? Because honestly, weekly, I have a business that's saying that there's issues with the city of Sanford. I totally get that. And sometimes I get it, and then other times I say, listen, these are the rules and we have to follow them. I totally understand you're upset. But in this particular property, I'm not really sure how to proceed with this one.
Well, oh, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
This is an issue on progressing our city with several properties that have sat empty or even blighted. And so I concur that there needs to be perhaps a different mechanism or time period for new businesses to be able to meet some of these standards. That's just one person's opinion and idea.
I could see us writing regulations for redevelopment that are different than new development, maybe.
Okay.
I'm not sure I'm in favor of phased requirements, because then it becomes a code enforcement issue when they don't do it.
No,
And then the fight just happens later on.
No, and I think we came across that a couple of years ago, and then later on, I get it. It's a slippery slope. But if we want to have the quality city we think we are, that I don't think we are yet, we need to come to the perfect example is that the 7-Eleven and the store next door and not making any progress and cleaning up that just straight down the street here. And so this particular property we're talking about tonight has sat empty forever. And the previous owner, or maybe even the current owner, tried to do a different kind of business there and hit stumbling blocks with a different body of our city. And so business friendly loses its meaning when we're not trying to help businesses get open. And we could even go down this hole even further with the grease traps and some of those issues with utilities and et cetera, et cetera. It's not planning. I'm not picking on planning. We have some stumbling blocks that we continue to hit across the city with getting locations fixed, replaced, new build, whatever you call it. And so I know that it's hard because our code is pretty much built like state statutes are, and they're in black and white, and there's usually no gray. And so it's a difficult battle. I'm not upset with anybody. I'm not pointing fingers at anybody, but for us to improve and continue the quality growth that we want, with some of this.
But the quality growth that we want, we're going to get by lowering our standards of quality. I think that, I think that's the discussion we need to have. Is
Well,
it worth,
okay, but
wait, let me finish. Is it worth taking a property that's sat vacant for a really long time and continues to look like it does, and get it open and it looks better, as opposed to it's open and looks like our standards for all new development? I mean, is there a balance point in there that it's worth lowering some of our, in this case, landscape standards and setback standards? Is it worth lowering those so that the building can be used?
I'm not just talking about repurposing a building. I'm talking about repurposing a property. We are hindering new building as well with a lot of this. And so that there is an issue on both avenues. And I know we set standards and we are aiming for a high bar, but we also don't have any mechanism anymore in this city to help people reach that bar.
I don't suppose we have any metrics on how many businesses have said, we'd like to build here, but we can't because of our planning requirements, to kind of get a sense of how much are we actually losing because of.
Well, I could sit here tonight and name names of people who kicked tires and wanted to open business here and left because of that.
Yeah.
But that's not the point. I don't want to go down that road.
But we also have a lot of development and business coming here to the point that we've suggested not do stuff.
We keep saying a lot. I don't know if we can say a lot.
Right, apartments is not a lot.
Yeah, yeah.
What?
I was saying apartments is not a lot. We're talking about, I'm talking about a lot of is revitalization of certain areas.
Yeah.
And.
Okay, so do we want staff to come back to us with some ideas of how redevelopment standards could be changed to make it easier to redevelop a property?
Some kind of a special standard that says we're really pushing for encouraging urban infill and removing blight. And there's some incentive for that, which is the following.
Mr. Mayor, I hear what the commission is looking at. I would respectfully request that the city commission set a time at a work session to discuss it so staff gets clearer understanding of what the commission is looking to accomplish.
There is one small time constraint when we're talking about 13th and Park. So, I totally get it, and I'm not asking the commission to make any exception. I'm just putting it out there because you currently have someone developing that property. Now it's at a standstill. You won't be able to get the CO or, without moving forward with the site development. And of course, I'm not anyone to say, okay, well, it's just a bunch of concrete out there and I don't see what the problem is. I never that. Again, I've talked with Tony. I'm just trying to figure out another way for us to be a little more business friendly. And sometimes businesses don't actually know when they're getting the property that's one of the things that they will have to face later on. Then you start doing the development, getting your general contractor, and then boom, okay, now it's going to take an additional $70K for you to meet said requirements. And I'm not saying that always happens or blaming anyone, but God forbid.
How does the commission want us to proceed?
Well, I don't see us, changing the rules for one property tonight. I think the way forward is what you suggested. We've identified something that we think may be an issue that needs to be addressed. Let's address it. But I would not be in favor of doing it one business at a time. So
that's why I brought it to the commission. I cannot continue to bear these crosses by myself. I'm tired.
I've talked to people about that property too, and how they got to this point. Yes.
Okay.
Anyway,
And staff certainly can put something together, but I would like for them to hear more from the commission in terms of guidance and what you want it to look like.
See, Mr. Bonaparte, that's what I talk about all the time. I'm not in land development regulations, and I don't know all of the requirements that are there. So I don't work 40 hours a week in that. I'm just asking them to present items to the commission.
Right.
That's ignorance on my part, but I can't tell you exactly what I want you to do, sir.
But you can share the guidance in terms of what you'd like us to accomplish.
The guidance is to come up with some ideas so that we can make it more business friendly. If we're saying that we cannot just adjust one, or we're saying that we don't want to do a time thing, I don't know. I'm so horrible at articulating stuff, but look at what other options that we could do.
I understand the question. Here's the conundrum. First, as a deist, you all have to decide, do you like the standard you have? If you like the standard you have, then you stick with it, regardless. If you think there's some issues with the standard that you have, then city manager's correct. Let us know what those potential issues are, or how you want us to deviate or suggest that, and then staff could be tasked with that. Ultimately, the issue at hand is this one business. Now, in the reality of it all, what are the chances that staff is going to be able to present potentially new standards, get it all approved in time for this one business? Right. I don't want to give the false hope that that's a likely possibility, nor for an array of legal reasons, nor should we be monitoring or amending or modifying our standards to even appear as though we're doing it for one business. If it is the pleasure of the dais that we need to come up with standards for redevelopment in the future, then that's definitely a discussion, a lawful discussion that I invite us to have.
okay.
I would like, one more thing. I would like part of that discussion to be, why is it okay for a property to exist the way it exists for years and years and years, and even be a business that was open at that site? But now, because we have a change of ownership, we're gonna hold that property to a higher standard than what it previously was held to. That is one situation I would like a better grasp of in this work session.
Fair point. I can explain that one, but I don't want to do it tonight, and we'll work with that.
Okay, but that's a huge hindrance.
Okay,
And
I
it's holding
understand.
back 1792,
I understand.
and it's holding back
Okay.
the city from moving forward.
All right, so here is my suggestion. See if this would work. Could staff come up with 3 examples, okay, of projects, and show here is what would be required to redevelop this property, you know, landscape, grease traps, whatever. Here's what we do, and then give us ideas on things that could be scaled back. And then when we look at that, we may identify other things we want to scale back.
Is it with regard to this particular?
Not this,
no.
Oh,
no,
okay.
I would think 3 examples, 2 examples even. Chris doesn't like that idea.
The
Tony
concern
doesn't
is
like
that these are matters that may come before you that you'd have to adjudicate on, and therefore you're having a presentation and prejudging
Okay, then,
those.
okay, then.
That's why I asked, is it
Okay.
particular?
Let's make it an imaginary site.
Okay, so, I mean, basically what's in the land development code. Here's a square, here's a building,
Right.
here's what it would have to look like to be used.
Right.
Well, that's why I recommended a work session specifically with regard to redevelopment as a general concept.
Right.
And things that planning and development can recommend with regard to that issue for you all to consider. But again, I don't want
to start at, this is what's required.
Right, this is what's required, and
Here-
these are some plans or options to address that.
Yeah, here are the current requirements. I was just thinking visually, it'd be nice to see an example,
No, I agree.
imaginary example.
Right. I have no, right, I have no
Okay.
issue with that. I just
All
don't
right.
want to focus
Because
on any particular.
So one example.
Well, let's just be honest here. These changes come to us. We're sold how great it is for us to do this, and we do it, but we don't have a visual example. We don't have even a possible cost example of what it would take to redo this site if it was this size or this whatever. We're never given those, and I think sometimes maybe we would go, well, I don't know how somebody gets an ROI out of that piece of property at that point with our standards.
But as the day is part of what you're doing is saying what you want the standard to be and imposing that. And what the ultimate cost of, that can change variably up and down,
Sure.
but that,
Sure.
right?
Sure.
The other part of it is planning is doing an excellent job on educating developers and business owners to encourage them to bring their plans and work with staffing early on prior to them getting to this stage and having some of those. And that's another part of that.
I don't know about
And
that.
not change the details of the business along the way.
Art.
But we don't have anything in our LDRs now that says special or different treatment for blight or redevelopment, or, there's nothing in there like that now. There is. Okay, that's what I was wondering. I haven't read quite all of that yet either. I'm working on it.
Do we have an idea of what to do?
Do any of you want to address this issue?
Yeah, point me to a section I can read again so that we know what we are able to do.
Okay, Eileen Hinson, Planning Director. In our code, we have a built-in section called Urban Infill Redevelopment. Urban Infill Redevelopment allows staff to work with any and all applicants on certain pieces of property, less than 3 acres, I believe it is, that currently has improvements that can't meet code. We don't make them move buildings if somebody's got an existing building and can't meet setbacks. We don't make them meet full parking counts if there's just not enough land, but there's an existing building, and we work with them on those things. But we bring the site to as close to code as the site would allow. So if you have area that's concrete, but it needs to be removed to replace with landscaping, we will require that. But if you can only get 4 parking spaces in, and you're supposed to have 7, obviously we're not gonna, unless it's a business that really needs those 7 spaces for one reason or another, we'll work with you to reduce the parking. It's a conditionally used process. It goes through the Planning and Zoning Commission, and they have the ability to read through staff's response. If an applicant doesn't want to meet staff's recommendations and we recommend denial, the P&Z has an opportunity to either approve or deny, or approve with certain conditions. And if they deny or approve and the applicant doesn't like what's approved, they can appeal it to this board, this commission. So we have it all built into the code, allowing all that flexibility, but we need the flexibility to hold to as much standards as we can so that we can be the city we want to be.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Every side is different.
Right.
Right, it's hard to give you examples on the grounds that every site is different. So we've done urban infill on brand new builds, things like there's the Sal's Ice Cream Store that's just south of Walgreens.
Mm-hmm.
That's a 60-foot lot, and it's got a commercial property on it. It does well. They, been in business probably 15 years now.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it was one of our first urban infill redevelopments. And those of you who've been here a really long time, you remember the carpet shack that we chopped off the front of that building, expanded it widthwise, removed the gas station, and turned it into a 4-bay retail center.
Mm-hmm.
We've got the subway up here on French Avenue where we redesigned that building. It used to be those car washes, those open bay car washes, and we turned that into a retail center. They all have had to put in parking, they've had to put in landscaping, but they don't meet code, but they're far better than they were vacant. We do have a line that we draw that we don't just allow people to move in without meeting certain standards in order to do urban infill. But we work flexibility with many, many property owners.
Thank you for that.
So in terms of what you want us to present to you, I'm not sure where you want to go with the discussion, but it's all built into the code, but we need some give and take on the applicant side. And when there is opportunity to bring something to a certain code, staff's going to hold to it. If they choose to meet us at an impasse and say, we'd like to move forward with a recommendation, regardless of what your recommendation is, we do that as well. We bring denials to the Commission for Planning and Zoning to let them adjudicate, and then if the applicant doesn't like the outcome, they can appeal to this board.
So that's what I needed to know, Eileen. And it's not necessarily of me disagreeing with the city manager and saying, well, I don't know. I don't know what you're talking about because I don't work in that. So you just explained to me the urban infill stuff. So now I know I can go back to that developer. I did have a short conversation with Tony Raimondo, but there's so much information that you're getting in one conversation, you're not able to grasp all of that. So that's what I'm saying. When I don't know, tell me. That's what I'm looking for. Give me the reason and say, this is how we move forward, Commissioner, or this is why we can't. And then, hey, I move at the will of the commission.
We literally draw with them at the table.
Well,
We literally try to get real creative, especially for stormwater requirements, especially for state requirements, that preempt us. And we try to make sure, the planning laws requires us to plan and requires us to be a part of those laws and make sure that they're followed as well. And there are some applicants that just don't want to do a lot of things.
or they don't feel, like you said, the ROI for what they're trying to do. But then there's also certain cases where a use might not be permitted now, where it was sometime in the past. And they're requesting a conditional use to reestablish something that we no longer allow. They still have to go through that process.
Right, and a lot of this is due diligence, upon the potential buyer. Did you do your due diligence? Did you do your home inspection before you bought that house? Now you got to do $100,000 worth of work. That's due diligence. In every state, city, county, they all have their different requirements. They're all sovereign.
Okay. All right, we need to,
I'm hungry.
move along.
I don't want the final word, but I do want to say, out of respect for a lot of businesses and a lot of prospective buyers and the NDLs that are in those deals, I can't tell you the names, I can't tell you the titles, I can't tell you the businesses, but I can tell you that it's difficult to come to Sanford and do business and open up a new business compared to other places. There are many reasons why that's okay, because we do have a high standard, and there are some reasons where maybe not. It's a delicate balance, but I could give you some names, I could give you an examples. I don't think I need to. I've got other staff that can give you names and examples. I don't think I need to. It is a fact. It is a fact. We have properties in this city that are sitting undeveloped and blighted because the ROI is not there in the city of Sanford where other cities it is.
All right, so we'll figure out a way to continue this work session.
So Kathy can put it on the work session agenda.
October 20th.
What?
All right. We have a bunch of elementary school kids joining us at 7, which is in 20 minutes.
You mean other than the ones up here?
Yeah, we're adjourned.
Yes, they have a contract.
Oh, let me go up there, but you said they.
Hey, how you doing?
They will take a photo in a second.